Hey now, 580 Sports Talk going up on a Tuesday. Brendan Dworzinski, Dan Lucero here with you in studio. And joining us for the first time of many, many times, we are joined on the other side of the glass, the control board, by the third member of our team, Spencer Dupuis. Spencer, welcome to the show. Big day here on 580 Sports Talk. Got the three-man team going. Very excited. And welcome. Welcome to Topeka. Welcome to 580 Sports Talk.
Thank you, guys. And Dan was not kidding about getting up Pontoon Hill.
Yeah, it's
that was an
challenge.
Adventure. Listen. Never lied to the people, not one time. That is sort of my my credo. I get behind this microphone and I've never lied to the people. And that includes travel advisory for Pontoon Hill this morning. I was trying to come up the hill, and there was a car that was like stuck. In the good lane, they were stuck.
Yeah.
So I had to floor it up the bad lane. I'm glad I got new tires about a week and a half ago. Otherwise, I might have been. It might have been right back to a two-man show, man.
Yeah, man. I had the same thought. I get up this morning and I thought, okay, the roads aren't going to be that bad, and I was wrong. And they weren't awful. They've been worse. But I get finally here, and I went around. I took the bypass, and I'm coming up Pontoon Hill from the very bottom there, and I think it's going to be really embarrassing if I can't make it up the hill and then I'm late on Spencer's first day because I got stuck. Thankfully, got the all-wheel drive. We were fine. I have been stuck on that hill. My old Jetta did not like that hill in the ice.
No.
The Volkswagen, not great on that hill. So I'm glad we're all here in one piece. Spencer, we're glad you are here as well. And we are going to get to know Spencer a lot throughout the show today. As you know, longtime listeners, Random Question Tuesday on Tuesdays, the incredibly creatively named segment we play every single Tuesday afternoon. Well, we've mixed it up a little bit. We're going to do introductory question Tuesday a couple of different times today. 225, 325, 525 today. We're going to get to know Spencer a little bit. Dan and we've got a list of questions ready to go just to get to know our new co-host and your new friend a little bit here on 580 Sports Talk. So we'll get to that coming up in just a little bit. We've got plenty of Kansas City Chiefs to get to today. It is official. It was frankly official about 8 minutes into yesterday's final or second to last wild card weekend game. It'll be the Buffalo Bills hosting the Kansas City Chiefs in the divisional round of the NFL playoffs. We'll break that down, get you some initial thoughts on that matchup, your fear level in Josh Allen, who has been playing much better football. And here's the big difference. He played clean football yesterday. He did not turn the ball over. 17 straight wins for the Bills in games in which Josh Allen doesn't turn the ball over. How worried are you about facing number 17 coming up on Sunday? So we'll get to that coming up here in just a little bit. Some thoughts on the offensive line. I teased that yesterday. There's one member of the line that, as talented as they are, has me a little bit nervous going into the latter and still colder parts of the playoffs. We'll get to that. The Eagles also lost to the Bucs last night. We've got to touch on that. I don't remember watching an NFL team quit like that, let alone in a playoff game. You'll see teams give up at like the Chargers quit, and they had a bunch of dudes hurt. Their coach got fired. Like, they clearly were checked out. The Eagles quit on the field, gave up, packed it in last night. We're going to talk about that a little bit.
Catastrophe is what it was.
I feel like they quit like 5 weeks ago.
That's probably fair. Like, the seams were starting to come apart weeks ago. Frankly, they started to come apart when Nick Sirianni threw a temper tantrum in the tunnels of Arrowhead Stadium several weeks back.
I mean, we can even go back further. As people will find out later on when we talk about stuff, Commanders fan, lifelong Commanders fan, lived 15 minutes from where they practiced, met them all growing up. They barely beat the Commanders both times when every other team was killing the Commanders.
And that's a pretty damning indictment this year.
Yeah.
There are Eagles fans who would insist from like the jump that actually, no, this team isn't actually good. They barely beat the Patriots week one. Like, they were never good. They were some who would argue that they never had good vibes, but they never, the vibes weren't that until like the last month of the season. And last night's performance was appalling. That was unacceptable from an NFL team.
We have to get to it because I don't remember seeing something quite like that. We're going to talk some college hoops later on. K-State takes on Baylor tonight. That is a big-time game in Bramlage Coliseum. KU is on the road taking on Oklahoma State, which is by far the worst team in the Big 12. So we'll touch on that. We've got What Is Wrong With You, our 580 Sports Talk headlines, and much more coming up over the course of the show today. A couple other things want to note. We've already got a comment in from YouTube. Everybody very excited about the newest member of the 580 Sports Talk team. Our pal Clayton says, man, can I get a job talking about sports? I have a beard too, Brendan needs to step it up. Listen, I haven't shaved in a few days. I got to get this taken care of before I go do Washburn hoops tomorrow night. I got to look presentable.
You could have told me you hadn't shaved in a month, and I would have believed that that was the end outcome there.
2018, when we were traveling, you and I went to Omaha. We went to Wichita, and then the whole group we went to the Final Four of the NCAA tournament when KU made it down there, the Devontae Graham team. And I don't remember if it was on the drive down there, if it was on the drive back from San Antonio, what it was. I had gone playoff beard for the NCAA tournament that year. I hadn't shaved, and I was also at the time 23. I was not yet 24, and I can't grow facial hair now. I really couldn't then. And I mentioned like, oh yeah, I'm keeping it until KU gets eliminated. And Dan told me, and I'm not kidding, I wouldn't allow you near a school looking like that.
No, I did say that.
And it has stuck with me for a very long time. And now I try to remember to shave before it gets that bad.
Longtime listeners may be aware, but longtime viewers of the show, this is just kind of what I always look like now. But yeah, I used to do the whole playoff beard thing. It was like only for me. I don't know why I was really doing it, but I would never shave during the basketball postseason, like high school and Washburn. And then through the Final Four, I would keep get a little beard going, playoff beard. And then, I was doing that in 2020. And then the playoff beard became the COVID beard, became just, this is what I look like now.
Yeah, so. You did used to always be clean shaven. Yes. I forget about that. We worked together for so long, and I forget about that.
Yes. When I first met my now wife, I did not have a beard. So I sometimes I threaten. I say, maybe I'll get rid of it all, start a clean slate. And my wife said, well, I don't think I'd recognize you.
So yeah, Spencer easily has me beaten in the facial hair category. So that's a early +1 for him.
It was on the application, the questionnaire. So.
Yeah. Well, the bar is
I
also
checked
quite
that
low.
box quite early.
Yeah. The bar for that is beneath the floor. Also want to remind you guys, big week. Not only is it Spencer's first day today, and he will be joining us in perpetuity beyond this. Not only is it Peak Invitational Tournament week, Dan's going to have plenty of basketball coming up Thursday and Friday this week, but Friday, 2 until 4, right here on 580 Sports Talk. We will be live from the brand new Prairie Band Sportsbook at Prairie Band Casino and Resort, just 20 minutes north of town, up 75 Highway, just off 150th Road. The only locally owned sportsbook in the state, the only tribally owned book in the state, one of the most extensive betting catalogs around, 10 betting kiosks. The setup is great. I told you yesterday, we got a little sneak peek of it last week. It looks awesome. It's going to be a fun place to watch a game, put down some bets, and we'll be live there for 580 Sports Talk 2 until 4 coming up on Friday. That's at 12305 150th Road in Mayetta. So we are looking forward to joining you from the sportsbook coming up on Friday. Really looking forward to that. And of course, today we're taking your texts, 785-272-9429, and your comments on the YouTube feed. 580 Sports Talk is where you can find us on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe while you're there. Check out all of our other video content and, of course, the live show today. So let's just dive right into it. We'll get to some more intro questions with Spencer in a little bit, but first things first, it is official. It will be the Buffalo Bills and the Kansas City Chiefs. Final game of the divisional round, Sunday late afternoon, 5:30 kick. We're into the weird playoff kickoff times now. That's when the Super Bowl will kick off in just about a month's time. First road game for the Chiefs in the postseason in the Patrick Mahomes era. Now, Mitch Holthus, the voice of the Chiefs, as he's told us already this year, people make a big deal about that. The Chiefs did once play in a Super Bowl in Tampa Bay against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. COVID or not, that was certainly not a neutral site game. But officially speaking, first road game for the Chiefs in the postseason in the Mahomes era. This is what you want. As a fan of sports, as a fan of the NFL, and frankly, as a fan of the Chiefs, where now your existence as a fan, and maybe I'm projecting a little bit too much here, but it's not about the climb anymore. You accomplished the climb back in Super Bowl 54. You hadn't won it in 50 years. You had to get through some old demons. You lost to the Patriots the year before. You had to prove you were the best. And you got there, and you overcame, and you had the crazy comebacks all postseason. That was the climb. You've been at the mountaintop since then with 2 other Super Bowl appearances and another win. Now it's about, if you're a video game player, if you're into that, it's about the side quests. It's about the missions here. It's about what other more challenging things are going to come my way to challenge my spot at the very top. And this is what you want. This is what you ask for. And as a fan, you can't ask for anything more but drama and rivalry and what should be good and competitive and exciting games the rest of the way. And like we talked about yesterday on the show with Matt Verderam from SI, if you ask the Chiefs, the players, probably even the coaches, they want this game. They missed their chance to put a stake in the heart of the Bills and Josh Allen and Sean McDermott back in week 14. They had that chance, and they missed it. They failed. They lost that game. Close. We remember what happened that cost the Chiefs that game with Kadarius Toney stepping over the line and being offensively offsides. But you get a rematch there. So you have narrative. You have great quarterbacks, arguably the two best in the entire NFL, especially the way Allen has played recently. I mean, this is what you live for. This is what the NFL always strives to give you with the drama. And this is exactly what the NFL wanted. And frankly, it's exactly what I wanted.
Yeah. And I think when you're a great championship team, I think all of the great champions across sports, and I'm talking about the teams, not just that, they win one and maybe that's it. Maybe that's just they had their run, they had their 1 year and they put something together. I'm talking about teams like the Chiefs that have a run of a half a decade where you're atop the league, where you're the team with the target on your back. I think when you're a great championship team, the way that the Chiefs have been, you hunger for that challenge. And I think it brings the best out of you. And I think that there were times this year where it sort of felt like there was some, can we just get to January already? Energy from the team. Not so much feeling the urgency in the regular season, because with 2 rings, you've proven what you needed to prove about the first one.
Yep.
There's the climb, like you put it, to get to that first one. And then you win the second, you're certified. You got 2 rings and you're certified as one of the great teams of the era. So now the challenge is in maybe staying invested and staying as committed and staying as hungry. And sometimes it takes that eager challenger to bring that hunger back out. And the Bills have been that. The Bills have brought great football out of the Chiefs. Even earlier this season, when the Chiefs didn't win that game against the Bills, you saw that meant a lot more to them. That their reaction after that game showed how much that one meant for a regular season game. They know that keeping them at arm's length and making sure that they aren't the team that usurps the Chiefs at the top, that it's a little personal, I think, to the Chiefs. I would expect that this matchup and the preparation for this matchup brings something out of the Chiefs that maybe we haven't seen. Maybe we didn't even see going into the first round of the playoffs necessarily. That challenge and that hunger sort of grow in this group to prove once again that they are who they have been, and that it's still their conference until somebody comes and rips it away from them.
And so far, the Bills have never been able to do that. And while this is rivalry, because it certainly means something to fans, and I think players take things personally, especially with the way that the regular season matchup went, the Bills haven't done that. As we've talked about many times before, the real number one rival to the Chiefs over the last couple of years has been the Cincinnati Bengals, because unlike the Bills, the Bengals have won the big one. They got to the Super Bowl by beating the Chiefs. The Bills have not been able to overcome this, and to varying levels of competition in a couple of different playoff games in recent years, but they've all been an Arrowhead, and now things change because the Bills are playing with confidence. I don't know that the Bills are quite in, this phrase gets used so much during the playoffs, and it's been used for my favorite team recently, but the house money mode where, hey, everything beyond this is gravy. No one expected us to be here. You can't really play that card if you're the Bills. Like if you're Green Bay, literally no one expected you to be this good. No one expected your quarterback to be this good. The Bills have gone into 2, maybe 3 off seasons in a row as one of the darling picks to win not just the AFC, but the Super Bowl. So you can't quite play that card. But the fact that you haven't done it yet, you've already beaten the Chiefs once in the regular season, you get this at home, and Josh Allen is playing this well and with this kind of confidence, I imagine there's almost a freedom from expectation you're playing with that, hey, we give it all we got. We've been playing give it all we've got since that week 14 game. And I imagine you're going to see a lot of that again from Buffalo this weekend.
I think that the Bills are just an interesting study if you look at their season, because they lost so many games by, was it 5 points or fewer this year? And, then they've come back and had that last few week, where how they got to where they are right now the last couple of weeks. And I think it's a hard thing to look at this game, and we'll delve into it obviously later in the week, but when you look at this Bills team, what are we going to get next week when we're seeing the Bills? Because we've had them lose very tightly, we've had them lose by a lot, they've lost questionably, and then they win like they did last night.
It's kind of fascinating. You make the point about going through the games they've lost, like losing to the Jets the first week of the season. If Aaron Rodgers had played, you would say, okay, yeah, I get it. Like, no duh. But that game was wild and weird, and Rodgers played 4 snaps.
Also, they turned it over 4 times in that game.
Yeah, they didn't take care of the ball at all. Lose to the Jaguars, that's much more embarrassing now than it was when it happened back in week 5. But, like, they've got a bunch of good wins. The Bucs is a good win. They beat the Chiefs. The Cowboys, we know, were fraudulent, but they smoked the Cowboys. But then they lost to the Pats. They lost to the Broncos, who were always kind of a paper tiger, even when they hit that hot run. Like, it's just so hard to know what to make of them. And that's why, and I teased this a minute ago, it comes down to me to Josh Allen. Like, how worried are you about facing 17 in blue? Because he is the guy. If you wanted to argue about actual value to a team, and that's how you wanted to make the most valuable player argument, you might give it to Josh Allen. Because as we've talked about, what else do they have? They got Stephon Diggs, but he's had a down year by his standards. Gabe Davis has never really taken off. James Cook has been better, but their offensive line is just fine. It's serviceable. It's not great. It's not awful, but it's not great. He is so much of that team, and has been, especially over the last few weeks, using his legs. That's the big worry to me. If you can find a way to turn him over or to somehow slow him down, the Chiefs should win this game. But the problem is that's a lot easier said than done.
And the Chiefs have had their own turnover problems, as we've extensively documented throughout the season here. It is a bit of two teams maybe kind of looking in the mirror at each other and seeing a lot of similarities. Great quarterbacks, obviously, some explosive abilities, but also the ability, I don't want to say ability, that's not really the right way to put it, a tendency to self-destruct. A tendency to, at times, be your own worst enemy. And again, we have cataloged that with the Chiefs. We don't need to go back through the litany of ways in which the Chiefs, in their losses this season, beat themselves. They lost 6 games this year, and in 5 of them, had they simply not made their own mistakes, never mind mistakes that another team might force you into. If the Chiefs had not made their own mistakes, they very well could have been 15-2. Like, we've been over this. But the Bills are kind of similar, and that's why that late season run, as Spencer was pointing out, was so interesting. Was they were on the other side of variance in those close games, and that was despite the fact that at times it wasn't like they were winning the turnover battle. They turned over 3 times against the Dolphins and still won that game by 7 points. I believe they also turned it over 3 times against the Chargers in a game they ended up winning by just 2 points in week would have been 16. So they haven't gotten all that out of their system in a way that we're not, again, entirely sure that the Chiefs have either. So which of these teams is going to avoid that self-destruct button? Which of these teams is going to avoid the critical mistake? Is it going to be the Chiefs, who a lot of times it's just been maybe their own fault, their own lack of focus, their own lack of execution? Or is it going to be Josh Allen doesn't throw the ball to the wrong team?
Exactly. That's kind of what when you look at a case study of this game, if you were going to do that, it's the 2 quarterbacks. What are they going to do? They've had it's kind of weird because you always see like a few weeks ago, Josh Allen was in the odds to win the MVP. But if you look at his numbers, they're not what you would think a quarterback MVP candidate would be when you look at his stats for the year. And he has those games where he's going to throw 2 interceptions, maybe 3 interceptions in the game. And we've seen Pat Mahomes do that this year.
I think the turnover battle is obviously going to be number one. We had a comment here on YouTube as well, as Gabe Davis even expected to play in this game. Yeah, I mean, that he's been banged up. If he can't go, that makes things even tougher. And again, that puts more pressure on Josh Allen, who already has a flimsy receiving core. Now, the fact that their tight ends have reemerged, we talked about it yesterday during the game while it was on. Dawson Knox is like a nobody for 90 yards, but inside the 10, he's just a freak. Yeah. Kincaid is awesome. We loved Kincaid going into the draft. He's a star in the making.
I advocated for the Chiefs to draft Kincaid.
I would have loved for the Chiefs to have taken Dalton Kincaid. Joe on YouTube, he says, whoever holds onto the ball and controls the lines of scrimmage should win the game. We talked about that with the Dolphins game over and over. Who's going to be tougher? Who is going to out-tough the other team? That's going to be the winner in this one. I think there's a bigger finesse play in this game. It's going to be cold. I don't know what the long-term forecast looks like for Buffalo, but that means something in the playoffs. It means just like in the NBA. You've talked about before when it comes to the NBA, like you've got the 81 game or 82 game players and the 16 game players and guys who help you win in the postseason. Similarly, in football, you win a different way. Things are tighter. That's like in every sport. It's tighter in the playoffs. You have less margin for error. Right now, I'm trusting the Chiefs over the Bills because I think while the Bills may even have a higher ceiling offensively than the Chiefs because of how volatile Allen is, I also think they've got a much lower floor, and I'm taking the surer thing in a game like that.
The other factor here, too, I think the rest factor is going to be important for the Chiefs. Having 2 extra days to recover from their own cold weather game before they go out on the road, I think that's a factor. I also think it's a factor that the Bills suffered some significant injuries potentially yesterday. Terrell Bernard with an ankle sprain had been carted off the field. He was their leading tackler this year, and he had 3 interceptions. Not sure he's going to play. Their defensive back situation, it sounds like they're going to get Rasul Douglas back. He didn't play for precautionary reasons, basically, it sounds like yesterday. And he told media after yesterday's game that he's going to go against the Chiefs. That's a big return for them, but they're down so many other important defensive backs. They haven't had Christian Benford. Kyer Elam's playing a bunch, and even he got dinged up yesterday. So they are a banged up defense. They are not whole at linebacker, and they are not whole at defensive back, and they've not been a great pass rushing team all year as it is. And those aren't great traits for a defense to have when you're facing Patrick Mahomes. I don't care who Patrick Mahomes is throwing to on the other side. Those are not things you would choose to be. Weak at linebacker, injured at defensive back, and not a great pass rushing team. Those are not things I would choose to be when number 15 is on the opposite side.
We'll get to much more on this matchup coming up throughout the show and throughout the week. Obviously, right now, though, we owe you our first time out of the day. When we come back, we're going to get to know our new co-host just a little bit. Some intro question Tuesday. That's coming up here on 580 Sports Talk. Just getting started on 580 Sports Talk on this January 16th, 2024. Brendan Dworzinski, Dan Lucero, and Spencer Dupuis here with you. Spencer's maiden voyage here on 580 Sports Talk. So we wanted to get to know our new co-host, someone you're going to hear every day here on our airwaves, a little bit more on his first day. So a couple times throughout the afternoon, we've got a few questions we'd like to ask to get to know you a little bit better.
We forgot the interrogation lighting. I was supposed to bring that, and I neglected to bring that today. I apologize.
Instead, and a real quick aside, we have the angelic Heaven's Gate lighting above Dan. Yeah. We've mentioned this before in studio, and you can't see it obviously on the radio, but if you're watching the YouTube stream, we've got fluorescent lighting in the studio.
Yeah.
And the way it is angled over Dan, it is shining brightly.
I look like I'm about to be raptured is what's happening here.
Yeah, it's divine, really.
bathed in light. Actually, this is just how I walk around all the time.
And there's always a glow about
completely
Dan.
honest with you. Yeah, it's exactly what it is.
All right, so
it's my skincare routine.
Oh, yeah, certainly.
Extensive.
So, Spencer, you mentioned you're a Commanders fan, Washington fan from the East Coast.
Yes.
What have been in your lifetime the core sports memories for you, either good or bad, like the things that have defined your fandom of the teams you are a fan of?
Where we want to start here? I guess we'll start with the
a lot of good for Washington.
Yeah, in other sports, yes. But we'll start with the Commanders, Redskins football team. You know, they've had 3 names, maybe a 4th coming up here. Who knows what Josh Harris wants to do? I guess grow like 2005, 6, 7 is really my introduction into football, like watching NFL football, and then that also was because of literally where I grew up was 15 minutes from where they practice.
Mm-hmm.
So I would run into players at the store. Like I ran into tight end Chris Cooley a handful of times at the store and just random places, and then just any other player you could name of like during that time.
So,
and like my 4th grade teacher lived across from Santana Moss and next to Jason Campbell.
I love Santana Moss.
So they were everywhere when I was growing up in my like hyper local area.
So 05, 06, 07, which of the playoff losses to the Seahawks in that time frame was your favorite?
That's not very nice.
It's not very nice at all.
I don't know. I just remember that one game, I guess it was 07, would have been 07 into 08.
Mm-hmm.
Because that was the Sean Taylor.
That was the
Remember
Sean Taylor year. Yeah,
I have a poster somewhere, and it's Santana Moss scoring a touchdown. I'm pretty sure it was in that Seattle game, and he threw up the deuce 1.
One of the
for
coolest,
21.
One of the coolest football players of our lifetime, Sean Taylor.
Yeah. And then the Albert Hainsworth era, where it was a waste of space time, and I guess it was the Monday Night Massacre against the Eagles, where he just laid on the ground.
Oh, was that the game in which Michael Vick had 80 fantasy points or whatever it was? The greatest fantasy football game of all time?
Yeah. And then that was during the Jim Zorn era. We talked about that off air earlier today. Then Mike Shanahan, and we're like, oh, we have a football coach, like a guy that's coached football legit.
Mm-hmm.
And then like the whole reason RG3 got drafted, the whole RG3 era is just an era in itself.
How much do you hate every single time your favorite team plays on Fox and they go, hey, look at all these other better coaches that left?
Oh, it's the worst. They're not even, they're sometimes in games where 1, the Commanders aren't playing, or 2, those teams aren't even playing. They mention like matchups later in the day. They're like, well, look, it's going to be Kyle Shanahan versus his predecessor, or, protege, Mike McDaniel, and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, can they just stop with that? But that era all in itself, and then the Kirk Cousins, are we going to pay him era? That's
I bet that was a blast. Yeah.
It was like we have finally found a guy who can be a decent quarterback. And as we've seen what he's done in Minnesota, but he wanted 1-year deals and they wanted to lock him up, but he wanted more money each year. That's because it was guaranteed in his contract. That was a year. And then the Riverboat Ron, we're getting things back together. We got a guy that was in the Super Bowl 7 years ago, or 5 years ago at that point. And then it kind of all went downhill from there. Then we move over to like the other sports, Nationals, I think 2012.
Man, I had a great time with the Washington Nationals that never won a playoff series jokes. And then y'all had to go below that in 2019.
It was like a culmination. It was like, oh, here we are in 2012. And 2011, like you got a decent team. You got guys coming in. You got some rookies that will be up in a few years. And then 2012, it's like they burst on the scene. Oh, then your supposed closer blows it.
Drew
to St. Louis.
I remember.
Drew Storn.
I can tell you exactly where I was watching that game.
And then before that, the game before that was the Jason Worth walk-off home run. I will remember exactly where I was because I could have gone to that game. There was a chance for me going to that game, but getting to DC was not logistical at that point. And then, excuse me, kind of that whole era and building up to the World Series. It's kind of like the 2007, 2008, 9, 10 start of the Capitals in hockey building up. And then that going all the way to 2018, seeing 2 world championship parades. I went to both. Was probably the 2 big highlights of my sports fandom.
Yeah.
within 2 years of each other. And then those teams now look where they are.
But you have the good old days.
Yeah. They got to the mountaintop in baseball, something I will never know anything about.
And then now, now Steven Strasburg can't pitch anymore, and he wants to retire, but he wants to make all his money. But then the league doesn't want the owners to pay him his money, and then apparently the Capitals and Wizards owners wanted to buy the Nationals, and then that didn't happen because somebody died in the Lerner family that owns the Nationals. It's a whole thing. And then now with the Capitals and Wizards wanting to move to Virginia, that's a whole nother thing.
Yeah, sports franchises are just real estate tenants, and I think the DMV, they're learning that the hard way. All right, here's a bit of an off the board non-sports question for you, because we do those from time to time. I guess it's kind of a sports question, but it's not really a sports question. All right, your walk-up song. You get an at bat, or you're coming out of the bullpen, whichever you prefer in the major leagues. I got to know, what is your musical accompaniment?
That's a good question.
Your entrance theme, if you will.
It's probably Doing This by Luke Combs.
Okay. All right, is that more? All right, is that a better fit for? I like Luke Combs. Dan's not a country guy. I like Luke Combs quite a bit.
Luke Combs seems like a hail fellow, well met. Like
good dude.
I'm glad that he's having success with a karaoke version of Fast Car.
I knew that was coming.
He genuinely seems like a fine gentleman, and I'm glad he's having the success he's having.
Better bullpen song or better walk up to the plate song? Do you think?
Ooh, I feel like that might be a bullpen song.
I had
Walk
the same
up
thought.
to the plate song could be Going, Going, Gone. If I gotta go
Fitting.
with,
I like that.
If I gotta go with the Luke Combs vibe for that, if I got to do the same artist,
I like that. All right, music wise, are you predominantly country? Do you mix it up a little bit? What are the music tastes?
I would say predominantly country, but we mix it up.
Okay,
we mix it up.
All right,
My Maria by Brooks and Dunn. How do you feel about it?
I don't know. It's okay.
It's not okay. That's the wrong answer.
Okay, this is a perfect segue.
I wouldn't turn it on and be like, let's listen to this song.
Well, okay. I can live with that answer.
I was going to go negatively here because obviously I like to be a pessimist. That's perfect. Dan hates My Maria. Maybe more than anything else.
It's the worst song that's ever been recorded. I really hate that song. I'd rather listen to Friday by Rebecca Black.
Oh my!
That's in the computer. Don't be careful. Yeah. Be careful with that.
That's not advice.
So, as much as we like to share positivity and be optimistic and positive, it has also come out many times over the years the things that neither of us like or can stand. For Dan, it is My Maria by Brooks and Dunn. For me, it is mayonnaise, also carrots, also the University of Missouri at Columbia.
I'm not a big pickles guy.
Not a pickle guy.
I hate pickles.
All right.
There you go. All right, look at that. Perfect fit.
Yeah. You put pickles on my burger and or chicken sandwich, I just don't want to eat it.
Send it back.
Are you going full Al Michaels? Like if you say no pickle and they put pickle on it, are you sending it back?
Yeah.
Because Al Michaels will say, if anything green touches my food, I'm sending it back. Because he's just otherworldly. So what's on the list? Like, if you could pick 2 or 3 things that there are no redeeming qualities, what are they? Just things that you cannot stand, you hate, you despise, they're vile to you.
I would definitely say pickles. I can't.
Okay.
Like, that is top of mind. I'm not a pickles guy. Like the whole chicken sandwich thing, no pickles go. Pickles do not go. And then like the pickle back shots, like that's a thing apparently. I think that's disgusting. Another one. What would another one be? I guess
food or otherwise.
Food or otherwise.
Food. It could be a piece of pop culture.
Oh, I don't. You're stumping me here, day one.
Well, it's a little negativity on day one.
That
That's
speaks
fair.
volumes to your personality. You can't immediately come up with a bunch of things that you hate or that bother you.
One more, and unless
I do hate drivers that are slow in the left lane.
Okay,
I experienced a lot of that in the last week driving out.
I get that.
It tested me a lot.
One more from the YouTube comments. This has been talked about an inordinate amount over the last couple of weeks. I was on the road. I was on my way to Northwest Missouri State University for Washburn Hoops a couple weeks ago. It was a Wednesday afternoon when this came up on the show. You and Jake were talking about it. From Clayton on the YouTube comments, Spencer, do you believe that Pop-Tarts are ravioli?
No.
Correct. Objectively, yeah, correct.
They're filled
Pop-Tarts or ravioli
around some sort of, carb-like structure. I don't believe this. This has come up multiple times during the show, though.
we let people rock with their actually a hot dog is a sandwich. And
No,
then,
I
and then
I don't want to hear that
but
argument.
no, but we let people rock with it. And then they got brave and they started saying things like cereal is soup and Pop-Tarts are raviolis. And at some point, we need to shut the studio down. We need to intervene for the good of everybody.
I'm shutting the studio down. I need to go to Queens.
My girlfriend
Give me the
chimes
breast
in
milk
via
of a
text and she
Cambodian
says
immigrant.
Pop-Tarts are in fact ravioli. No.
Your girlfriend said that?
Yeah, she just texted me and said they are too ravioli. No.
Don't hit the text line 785-272-9429.
It's a pastry.
Yes.
Yeah, it's definitely more pastry.
Breakfast ravioli.
Another one here. This isn't a question, just a comment from Joe on YouTube. White Wedding by Billy Idol and My Maria are in the Horrid Song Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
All right. You want to say whatever you want to say about Brooks and Dunn? Fine. I'm not hearing any of this about White Wedding by Billy Idol. That's a great song.
Yeah, White Wedding's not bad.
Awesome
I don't
song.
have much animosity.
That opening riff, that rules.
Yeah, it's not his best song.
That's a great song. Okay, fair.
Rebel Yell, obviously his best song.
Yeah. We would love to have your questions as well. Send them in. Text line number is 785-272-9429. You know where to find us on YouTube. Just go to youtube.com, search 580 Sports Talk. Subscribe while you're there. Check out the live stream. We're going to, a couple more times throughout the show today, ask Spencer some of these welcome to 580 Sports Talk questions. So send them in so we can figure out everything we need to know, everything you want to know about our newest co-host here on 580 Sports Talk. 785-272-9429. And again, the YouTube comment section as well. Send them in. We'll ask them throughout the show today. We owe you a timeout. When we come back, an NFL team flat out quit in a playoff game last night. We got to break down what the hell happened to the Philadelphia Eagles. That's coming up on 580 Sports Talk. Brendan, Dan, and Spencer here with you on 580 Sports Talk on this Tuesday afternoon. Thanks so much for hanging out with us today. Don't forget that coming up on Friday, we will be live from Prairie Band Sportsbook. Brand new grand opening on Friday. They'll have the ribbon cutting a little bit earlier in the afternoon. We'll be live for 2 hours of sports talk coming up on Friday from 2 until 4. And not only will we be live there, you can come hang out with us, meet the whole crew, hang out, place a couple of bets at the sports book. But additionally, Prairie Band is running a second chance drawing coming up on Saturday. Super easy to enter. All you have to do, place a bet of at least $20 before the drawing on Saturday. So come by on Friday, place a bet of at least $20. If that bet loses, if it does not win, you can place your losing ticket in their drum, the big drawing drum, and they will draw from it on Saturday between 12:30 and 1:30. And you could, with your losing ticket, win autographed items from Bill Self or Travis Kelce or Bo Jackson. You could possibly win low in the bowl tickets to a K-State basketball game coming up later this season. Really good seats. We were told where they are. Good seats. And you could also possibly win tickets to see Sporting KC play Inter Miami at Arrowhead Stadium and featuring Lionel Messi in that game. All of those are potential prizes you could win from the Prairie Band Sportsbook Second Chance Drawing. You must write your name and your player ID at Prairie Band on the back of the bet slip to be a valid entry. They got to know who you are. They got to know whose slip they're pulling out. That'll, again, be coming up on Saturday between 12:30 and 1:30, and we'll be up there live on Friday from 2 until 4. 2 games last night. The first one, it was going on during the show yesterday. The Bills taking care of business against the Pittsburgh Steelers. And then in the second game, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers housed the Philadelphia Eagles. And the Eagles' defense has been bad for a long time. It has been bad all year.
Wow, who knew that putting Matt Patricia in charge of your defense was a bad plan in the year 2024?
I put on Twitter last night that it was like Matt Patricia was promoted by Nick Sirianni intentionally. Like, he did that on purpose, not with his life on the line.
He looked at his options and said, Matt Patricia is the best one I got.
And believe it or not, their defense in pretty much every single metric got worse after he was promoted, which is almost impossible because they were already bad. They got worse.
Yes.
Shocking. Matt Patricia would make your team worse. They quit last night. And credit to the Buccaneers because they played well. Baker was playing with confidence. You saw Trey Palmer make that awesome play to break all the way free for a touchdown. You had a bunch of dudes who, like, that guy made a big play, scoring touchdowns. Mike Evans had a quiet day. Chris Godwin caught the touchdown late. Their defense was playing hard. And I know Jalen Hurts was banged up. His fingers were all messed up. They quit, flat out quit on Nick Sirianni, on that franchise, on each other. It was bad. Jason Kelce's retiring, right? We all agree on that. He's done.
He said it last night, I think, after the game.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, he said it to his teammates.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which, that's another thing. I feel like a retirement like that, they shouldn't break the news. Like Adam Schefter tweeted it last night or this morning or something.
Yeah. Great player, obviously. Hall of Fame player. 6-time All-Pro. He's going to the Hall of Fame, sure thing. If there's anything sure thing about an offensive lineman going to the Hall, it's Jason Kelce. But to watch the product they put out there and to watch them play with so little energy, so little desire. Like, James Bradbury, what are you doing? A speed out went for, what was it, a 60-some-odd yard touchdown last night. Kevin Byard was their big acquisition. He looked as bad as he's ever looked in his career. I've never seen something like that in a playoff game. Regular season game, sure. A playoff game, and they just quit. Well, I couldn't believe it.
We saw 4 teams quit to varying degrees over the course of the last 6 days, and at least a couple of teams had an excuse.
Mm-hmm.
Like Pittsburgh quit because they were cold and they wanted to go home, and Mason Rudolph was their quarterback, and you saw them quit. Like what Minkah Fitzpatrick put on tape. I would never give that guy a big contract. Mm-hmm. What Minkah Fitzpatrick put on tape in that game for the Steelers, that was disgusting from him particularly. But like,
for one of the best safeties in the league,
yes, a player who I've generally held in pretty high regard. But after I watched that, he would not get another big contract from me if it was me signing the checks. They quit because it was cold, and Dallas and Miami quit because that's what they do when things get hard. Like they're just, when the going get tough, we turtle up. Like that's the Dolphins, that's the Cowboys. But the Eagles was something different altogether. That was what it looks like when a team just doesn't want to play football anymore. They're done. They're checked out. That was the ultimate Cancun on 3 football game. Mm-hmm. And they can't run it back. Like, they had a roster, like, going into this year, obviously they were the defending NFC champions. And their roster, I thought, was really good. And I thought it got better. Mm-hmm. Like, their addition to Kevin Byard midseason, I thought, okay, this is a big time. They're pushing their chips in. They weren't satisfied with a 5-0 start or a 10-1 start. Like, they're all in to go and try and win it again, to get Jason Kelce one more ring before he hangs it up, get Brandon Graham one more ring, whatever it is, right the wrongs of last year. And they lost 6 of their last 7 games and looked utterly disinterested in the physical aspect of playing football. They couldn't block for Jalen Hurts.
Nope. They
couldn't tackle. It was excruciating, and they can't run that back. Like, they've got a lot of really good players. I don't think it's the personnel. Honest to goodness, I don't. I look at that roster. I think that roster is good enough to win. I think that roster probably is as good a roster, aside from the 49ers, as any in the NFC, which tells me it's the coaching. And I don't think you can run it back with that coaching staff. Certainly not Matt Patricia, but I think they got to take a big, long look at whether Nick Sirianni's got control of that locker room.
The fact that they got the tush push stopped at the goal line, that felt very symbolic to me.
Yeah, the end of the year.
It's failed like 3 times in the last 40 games, and they couldn't get it to work there. It just felt like that was meaningful, even if it was just one play and one example of it. And you've watched a lot of Eagles football, being from that more so that part of the country, being a fan of one of their rival teams. I think Sirianni is a good coach. I think his personality is, I don't want to say he has a horrible personality because I don't know him personally, but like the outward projection of it is, I mean, he seems like a really hard guy to like and get along with. And I would imagine it's one of those things where when the going is good, yeah, let's ride with it. Good. Awesome. The shtick and the yelling and the weirdness, I imagine when it goes south in a hurry.
Yeah, and I mean, you saw them kind of, what was it, midway through the year, they tried to do different things off of the tush push, like the end around off the tush push, and they were trying to evolve it, but then it seemed like it went away for a bit. It just didn't seem like they wanted to keep evolving it, even though that worked.
And I think the injuries to Hurts probably hampered this too, because he was banged up. And again, his hand was all messed up going into that game last night. But
yeah, I mean, I heard them talking during the game. I can't remember at what point during the game, but I think Troy Aikman said, I wouldn't be surprised if something comes out where he has knee surgery.
Yeah.
At some point in the offseason.
It's a great job, and I do think that is a good roster. I do think it needs some overhaul. Like, Fletcher Cox is old. Brandon Graham is old. Who knows if he's going to be done? Is he the one who said he wanted one more go-round next year?
I think so.
I just saw that this morning.
I saw that,
Yeah, that Brandon Graham said, hey, I'm going to play one more year with the Eagles, and that's going to be it. Which, you know, that's cool for him, and he's been a really good player for a long time, but that also puts the Eagles in a tough spot where, okay, so we've got to keep this roster spot for Brandon Graham, but we also need to plan around him for the future, and maybe that means drafting someone to replace him this year. It's a tough spot to be in. It's a good job, and I would imagine they will end up landing whoever they want because that immediately becomes the best job, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Best roster.
Best roster to work with.
Yeah. Because right now, probably the best roster of any of the vacancies, I'd say Seattle, honestly.
Yeah, I would say so. I think Seattle's the best job because Seattle also, I think, has the most stability as a franchise, too, which helps.
Yeah. That's a big part of it. But no, certainly you walk in, you've got a conference championship winning quarterback in Philadelphia. You've got outstanding talent at wide receiver. You've got talent at running back. You got talent on the offensive line. You got talent on the defense. Yeah. It's not, they were not operating at a talent deficiency. Really, I don't think at any spot this year. It didn't feel that way to me.
But they do have a lot of free agents.
Yeah.
I mean, only a few are starters, including DeAndre Swift. But I did see a tweet last night after the game, like, I think they got 10 or 15 guys that played significant roles in the team this year that are on expiring contracts. And then you added Jason Kelce, as we found out this morning, retiring to that list.
And a few of these guys, too, like Zach Cunningham ended up not being very good for the Eagles, so you can live with him walking away. But again, what is Fletcher Cox going to do? 33 years old at pass rush defensive tackle. That's a tough spot to be in. Jason Kelce leaving. That changes everything up front because he has been so good for so long. Did you see the interview where he claimed to say the same thing every single time they did the tush push? Did you see what he allegedly yells?
What does he yell?
Bleep my life. You can assume what the bleep is. I bet that play sucks. I bet that play took a year off his career, if we're being honest with you, being massacred under that pile. Yeah. Also, the one that got stopped on the goal line, did you see how they tackled Hurts?
Like, they grabbed his upper body and, like, turned him sideways.
Grabbed the inside of his helmet.
Mask.
And
face mask.
Should
have been a face mask.
I get it, because if you're going to let that play go where it is just a rugby scrum, like, that's obviously a major advantage for the offense being able to push like that. But also, that comes back around, and maybe we find out, oh, we found the counter to the play. You can kill the quarterback when you get to him. You can just murder him. And maybe that ends up being the reason why that play goes out of vogue at some point, is you found out, oh, the quarterback has literally no protection. and
Yeah.
you can just rip his head straight off.
Well, and then what was it? I think it was one of the games they played the Commanders. They got a flag for offsides because Kelsey's hand was also next to the football.
Yeah, they had a lot to figure out. We got another hour of 580 Sports Talk coming up next. Oh, it's the 3 o'clock hour of 580 Sports Talk going up on a Tuesday. Brendan Dworzinski, Dan Lucero, Spencer Dupuis here with you. Spencer's first edition of 580 Sports Talk. Happy to have him aboard. Happy to have you along with us for 580 Sports Talk today. Plenty to get to coming up in this 3 o'clock hour. We're still taking your texts, 785-272-9429. Your comments on the YouTube stream, 580 Sports Talk on YouTube. We've gotten plenty of good questions we'll ask next segment on the text line over the last 20 minutes or so. Keep sending them in. We'll ask them to Spencer throughout the day, get to know our newest co-host a little bit more. We will, in this 3 o'clock hour, get to one of the concerns, and I'm willing to be talked down from this worry, but one concern I've got with the Chiefs' offensive line going forward here in the rest of the postseason. And we've got plenty more to get to. That's coming up here in just a second. Plus, remember when NBC patted itself on the back about Peacock during the last game of the weekend on Sunday night?
They ran a commercial in-game for how pleased they were with themselves.
It sounded like Mike Tirico was being held at gunpoint. He was reading that off a script, word, syllable by syllable, as drawn out as he could. We've got the numbers for this weekend's other games that were not on Peacock. And, folks, it doesn't look great for Peacock. It's not going to go away. Like, there's going to be another game on there next year because they're going to give the NFL another $110 million to do it. But we'll get into some of the ratings for the games from the weekend and how it doesn't look so rosy for the streams. And if you listened to us here on 580 WIBW, you listened to Mitch Holtis on the call, you certainly were not alone. Because we know a lot of people watched that game or paid attention, listened to it, whatever. Maybe just not so many on Peacock. Don't forget that coming up on Friday, we will be live from Prairie Band Sportsbook. Day one, the grand opening of Prairie Band Sportsbook coming up on Friday. First-class amenities around the entire resort. You got the Free Fire Steakhouse. You've got the arcade inside the hotel. You've got the spa, the indoor and outdoor pools. It is an awesome facility if you haven't been up there. Can't use it right now because of how cold and snowy it is out, but of course, Firekeeper Golf Course. You've played Firekeeper before, haven't you?
Multiple times, yeah.
You a golfer?
A little bit more of like a 130,000 handicap golfer.
I won't play at all, so I would be even worse. I'm sure about that.
I shoot 72 every time because I hit the ball 72 times, and then I go pick it up. And that's the end of the day.
And I quit from there. But the golf course is obviously wonderful up there. We know time's filling up for that. So all the different amenities up at Prairie Band Sports or Prairie Band Casino. Now the sports book being added into the group. They've got all sorts of brand new technology, including the Bring Your Own Bet tech. They're working on an app that will possibly be out hopefully as soon as possible. You'll be able to bet remotely from your phone. That is going to be awesome. You've got great lines up there, huge catalog of things that you can bet on, and we are super excited to be there for the grand opening of the only locally owned sportsbook in Kansas coming up on Friday from 2 until 4 for 580 Sports Talk. Before we get to our second day of the Topeka Invitational Tournament coming up on Friday. Dan will be there at Hayden High School for the TIT this week. We'll have triple header coverage for you both Thursday and Friday from the TIT. So join us for that again here on 580 WIBW a little bit later on in the week. I wanted to touch on the offensive line here for the Chiefs because I do think it is worth bringing up because we talked about it earlier. Winning in the trenches, obviously important. Winning in cold weather, the toughness, all that stuff up front, the important cliches when it comes to the NFL playoffs. You defended Juwan Taylor yesterday. Juwan Taylor totally exonerated. No wrongdoing.
We forgot to make the graphic.
I did. I forgot to whip that up. I have to do that during a commercial break here. I was going to put that up on the stream. I think it's been not the year that Juwan Taylor envisioned for himself with the Chiefs, not the year Chiefs fans envisioned for him when he got that massive contract to play right tackle for Kansas City. Donovan Smith is what he is at this point in his career. There are good moments. There are bad moments. Pass pro, he's fine. Run blocking, not especially good. Joe Thuney is an all-pro, deserves to be an all-pro. He's probably been the least talked about member of the offensive line this year, and for good reason. Trey Smith is really good when he's on, and I've talked recently a lot about listening to the Athletic Football Show podcast and really liking how they break things down and how deep into the nitty-gritty they get. And they said they loved what they saw from Trey Smith this week. They paid a lot of attention to him, thought he was mauling, thought one of his best games of the year.
Play with
Trey Smith.
Play with some bad intentions.
Love that.
Which is what he does at his best. I thought it was I thought a really good game for both guards. Like Joe Thuney was exceptional.
Yeah.
Like as good as he's ever been. He's one of the best. You take a guy like Joe Thuney for granted, and he pops up on the All-Pro, first team All-Pro list, and you think, gosh, I haven't thought about Joe Thuney all year. Well, that's why.
Yeah, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Remember when you were talking about coordinators and the average fan, if you've heard of a coordinator, it's either because they're really good or really bad at their job.
Right.
Same thing with offensive linemen. You ask the average fan and they know an offensive lineman, it's either because it's Marshall Newhouse and he's being cooked all the time. I still have PTSD from that. Or it's because they're actually really good. You didn't hear a word from Joe Thuney, and it's because he's that good.
We've all got that one offensive lineman that just you shudder when you hear their name.
Give us the commander. Been a while since there's been some great offensive lines there, but
I got one that you guys will remember, and I was like, I thought he was supposed to be good because he came from the Chiefs, Andrew Wiley.
Ooh,
not a great year
Wiley.
for him. Not a great year. With time as the offseason approaches, we'll get to the Eric Bieniemy experience.
But Trent Williams.
Yeah. Well, that was such a weird case, too.
The ending of that was really weird.
Yeah, with the fake cancer diagnosis or the misdiagnosis.
Yeah.
Yeah, very, very weird.
Bradley Soul for me, by the way.
Yeah.
And Jermaine Ifedi.
I will Jermaine Ifedi. God, I hate Jermaine Ifedi for one specific play. I will always remember being at Lambeau for the first time in 2013 and being in the bathroom. It was almost 0 degrees. That's where you had to go to warm up, and my buddy and I are standing there, and we hear over the PA, Marshall Newhouse has ended the game, and a guy in the stall up in front of us goes, "No!" from the stall. Bad memories of Marshall Newhouse in Green Bay. Is it completely out of the realm of possibility or the realm of realism that the offensive lineman I'm the most worried about going into the rest of the postseason is Creed Humphrey? We talked a little bit about this on the reaction show on YouTube on Saturday night. I think Creed is the best center in the NFL. I think he is great at what he does. The metrics love him. The tape nerds love him. He's great at what he does. But you know what he has really struggled with? And Eric Eager, friend of the program from Sumer Sports, has been pointing out for a while that he has been struggling with. Errant snaps. That is, as much as protection and road grading for the run, as much as that is important for what the center does, getting the ball to the quarterback is also important. And Eric put it on Twitter during the game. He said, these snaps are going to cost the Chiefs a game at some point. And you think, okay, not that big of a deal. As long as it gets there, it's fine. You want an example of a snap completely throwing off a very important play? Go to the final play of the Rose Bowl. And Alabama center had been awful all game in that game. And we talked about this the other day. The ball rolling back to Jalen Milroe is why that play was a complete failure. They might not have succeeded anyway. They're going up against the best defense in the country in Michigan. But the fact that it was so low, it threw off the timing. Milroe was sent into panic mode and just do whatever I can with it, because with more time, he's probably going off tackle to the left. There's at least a shot he's able to get some yardage. What he ended up having to do, there was no chance. A bad snap can throw off everything. That worries me a little bit, especially against a defensive line like Buffalo that's going to make you pay for mistakes like that with Ed Oliver playing the best football of his career. So I don't think that I am worried that Creed Humphrey is going to cost the Chiefs a playoff game. But I think when things do get tighter and you need everything to be as buttoned up as can be, I'm a little bit worried about that because it has been a trend.
That is the one thing that can happen that's more harmful than just your average holding penalty or your ineligible man downfield penalty or your false start. I mean, one snap that gets away could flip a possession. You can argue that a snap getting away on that third down cost the Chiefs potentially 4 points. And now you're going into a matchup where you're going to need some points. Like this is not a game where I think the Chiefs are just going to live with 4 field goals. This is going to be one of those games. I think the Chiefs are in a 4th and goal from the 2, or they're in a 4th and 2 inside the 25. I think they're going to go for it against the Bills. Yeah. I think they're going to look at this matchup in a way that they did not look at the matchup with Miami this past week and did not look at the matchup with the Bengals in their last meaningful regular season game, where they thought our defense is going to do their job and we don't need to go for it. We don't need to gamble. We'll take the points. We'll take the profit because we know this is going to get us to a number that's going to be a winning number for us. Josh Allen being on the other sideline doesn't let you do that as readily. So you're going to need points. You're going to need to be in situations where if it is 4th and short or 4th and goal, you got to think about trying to get 7. And you don't want to put yourself behind the sticks anywhere on the field, but especially in the red zone with a bad snap. Now, Mahomes, we've seen him work some magic before. Maybe he could turn a bad snap or a busted play into something spectacular. Wouldn't surprise me in the least. If anybody's capable, he's capable. But, yeah, it has been an issue really all year for Creed Humphrey. And I wouldn't be surprised if at the end of the year we hear something like, yeah, Creed Humphrey had like a surgical procedure done. It's been so out of character, but it's also been something that has kind of recurred as the season has gone on. Not every game, but it has popped up as a problem here and there.
Where do you land on the Chiefs' offensive line? Because I think just raw talent-wise, it's still one of the best in the league. And I love the interior as much as I love anyone's right next to Philadelphia with Humphrey at center and then Tooney and Smith as your guards. Are you at all worried about Jawan Taylor and the penalty problem and knowing that even if things are not entirely his fault, he is clearly getting a spotlight from the officials and from people in the stadium? Donovan Smith, he is what he is. Does that worry you at all?
Yeah, I think it's worrisome if you can't get the ball back to your quarterback. I think that's the whole thing is, different aspect here, but I saw it as a Commanders fan when it came to field goals. They had another Ron Rivera interesting move. They trade up a few years ago to get Cameron Cheeseman, long snapper out of Michigan. And I don't know what happened this year, but all of a sudden he just couldn't snap. And then they brought in guys to work out week 2 after he couldn't snap. They said, oh, well, he's good. He can snap in practice. And then it just kept going and going and going. And finally, I think it was a month ago, the last couple of weeks of the season, he had 2 in a game. And one would have kept them in the game. And there was a missed field goal because of it. And they cut him the next day. But obviously getting the ball back to your playmaker, whether it be the holder in the long snapping situation or to your quarterback, who basically that connection, the center to quarterback connection, is integral in a good play.
Is that the biggest concern for the offense the rest of the way?
The line play or
just line play in general?
I don't know. Like I have so much faith in the interior line that I don't think the tackles need to be spectacular. I just think they need to be workmanlike and not commit the big penalty. Like we talked about with Jawan Taylor, he hasn't been able to avoid any kind of penalty for the better part of this season, whether it's been the big one, the holding penalties, or certainly the false starts. But I thought he did play better down the stretch, and I thought that, again, like I spoke about on yesterday's show, I thought the block in the back he took that negated Rashee Rice's second touchdown, what would have been his second touchdown, was a bad call. I thought that was a bad call and an unfortunate spot for that player in particular to be in, because he's the scapegoat because they're calling his number over the PA, but he didn't really do anything wrong. He just got pushed into the guy, and the official I thought threw a flag that should not have been thrown. But I don't think those guys need to be spectacular. Like the rush ends for Buffalo, you've got Leonard Floyd, who did have 10.5 sacks this year. You have Gregory Rousseau, and you have the shadow of Von Miller. Basically,
I forget he's even still in the league.
Yeah, he was a healthy scratch at one point down the stretch.
Yeah,
and then he has those other issues going on outside of football.
Yeah, he's got some other things that are kind of dogging him a little bit. But like, he's not the same impact guy that he used to be. He's not the guy that they brought in last year to be that impact, and he was that impact guy until he tore his ACL. But I don't think that that's an edge rush group that I expect to, like, none of those guys is Max Crosby. None of those guys is Joey Bosa or I think even like a prime Khalil Mack. And there are guys that Smith and Taylor have had some individual trouble with as pass rushers this year, but I don't think any of those guys are on the Bills. So I think that's a matchup where at the very least you can kind of stalemate a little bit with the tackles. And with the job the interior has done, setting the tone physically and creating lanes for Isaiah Pacheco early in games, get the run game going to really get the Chiefs offense some traction. It's not the biggest concern for me. The biggest concern is still going to be, well, okay, if Pacheco is limited, if Rashee Rice is covered, if Travis Kelce is covered, who is going to make a play on offense for the Chiefs.
How much?
That's still the biggest concern.
Well, and okay, that leads back to something that I think is both a pro and a con going forward. And we thought it was a great idea talking about it after the game Saturday and then yesterday with Matt Verderame and just you and I, Dan, too. The idea that you just pass the ball to Travis Kelce or Rashee Rice or give it to Isaiah Pacheco, in a vacuum, that makes sense. Like if this was high school football, you could win a national championship or a state championship doing that. Like we've seen teams do that where, hey, 3 guys are going to combine for nearly 4,000 receiving yards in a high school season. Everybody else on the roster has about 85 yards total for the year. And it works. You can probably think off the top of your head of some programs that maybe were like that this season. That works until it doesn't, right? And do you trust that that is going to work against this team? I mean, you look at who Buffalo's got left. They're so banged up. Getting Rasul Douglas back is a big thing because he has been playing lights out all year, but especially since he got traded to Buffalo.
But in getting him back, did they lose Teron Johnson, who had to leave last night's game with a head injury? Did they lose him? Is Christian Benford going to be back? Like, they've still got a lot of questions at quarter.
Exactly. I mean, they're just so banged up that I think you can still take advantage of that. But if you're looking big picture, okay, what if you end up in a matchup with Baltimore? What if you get to Las Vegas and you play any of the teams who are left from the NFC? I think that is something that's worth asking. Is that a viable plan? Is it going to be stopped by anything? I don't know. I don't have the answer for that. We're going to find out. That's the beauty of football. That's the beauty of the drama of the NFL. I don't know if they're going to be able to stick it out, though. I hope they are. That would be the most fun version of this Chiefs team I think we could get this year offensively. I don't need to see 50 snaps from MVS. I don't need to see a snap from Sky Moore. Like, just feed the ball to those guys like crazy. That's the most fun kind of Chiefs football we could possibly see.
So I really think the production, like we said on Saturday, that's as close to the platonic ideal the rest of the way for the Chiefs. Those guys do the heavy lifting, sort of like a basketball team where, you know, you've got your 3 studs, your 3 scorers in let's call it college basketball. Let's say it's like McCullough, Dickinson, and Adams. Let's say those guys, you know, if those guys get you 65, you don't need a whole heck of a lot from anybody else. And Saturday, that was kind of the equivalent. You know, Pacheco, Rice, and Kelce gave you the equivalent of the 65 points you need, you know, 65 of the 75 you might need to win a college basketball game. So the question is going to be, one of those guys is off. If Kelce is double teamed and bracketed, and they're physical with him and they take him away. If Rashee Rice is in any way limited, I know he had that ankle issue, came out of the game for a little bit, came back, looked fine at the end. But what if that's something that dogs him? What if that's something he has trouble with on a harder turf surface in Buffalo? Who is going to be the guy to maybe only make one catch, but have it be a big one? Whether it's a chain mover on a 3rd down or whether it's a, you know, splash play in the screen game, who's going to be that other guy? They might not need a lot of production from the Richie James, McCole Hardman, MVS, Noah Gray, Clyde Edwards-Helaire cohort. But if they need like more than one play, if they need like 3 or 4 plays from those guys, are the Chiefs going to be capable of that?
Have either of you looked at the spread for this game yet?
2.5.
Nope, not yet.
2.5.
2.5.
All right. Since you haven't seen it, who's favored? Bills or Chiefs? Who do you think's favored by 2.5?
Home, probably Bills.
Yeah, it's Buffalo.
I bet the money line at plus 124 for the Chiefs immediately. I think it's moved up, actually. I think it's plus 126.
It's 124 still.
Is it back to 124?
Yeah,
okay.
I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah, so
I would take the Chiefs with that.
They have the better quarterback and they have the better defense. Like that's really where,
even more so than better, I think is what I said earlier. I think it's the more reliable quarterback because you can get unbelievable Superman play from Josh Allen. You can also get, you know, Clark Kent garbage.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. What do you want? You want to take away as many variables as possible, right? Josh Allen is a variable. That's just what he always is and always will be. It's hard to know what you're going to get week from week. And the good is great. It is Hall of Fame kind of good. The bad is, are you sure he's the guy bad? And if you can't live with that in a playoff game.
No.
So until I see it against Kansas City, I don't think I can pick the Bills. I don't.
Yeah.
Bills roster did just take a big hit. They have released Leonard Fournette from their practice squad.
Oh, man.
I don't know how they're going to do it without playoff Lenny.
Playoff Lenny.
Playoff Lenny.
I love Joe Buck. That is still one of the most bewildering things I've ever heard from Joe Buck. No one has ever called him that.
No.
Now they do, ironically. Playoff
You
Lenny.
don't ever want to be playoff anything. Like Paul George, they started calling him playoff P before he'd ever even won a conference finals. And he still hasn't won a conference finals.
We're going to get to a timeout on the other side of this break. We've got more intro questions with our new co-host Spencer Dupuis, and we are going to go around the NFL a little bit later on this hour here on 580 Sports Talk. Brendan, Dan, and Spencer here with you on 580 Sports Talk on this Tuesday afternoon. Thanks for hanging out with us today. Usually around this time, it's Random Question Tuesday, but with our new co-host, Spencer, joining us for the first time today, we're taking your questions. We've got some of our own as well to ask Spencer to get to know him a little bit more, because you'll be hearing from him a whole lot here on 580 Sports Talk. Send him in on the text line, 785-272-9429. You can also hit us up on our YouTube stream. Head to youtube.com, search 580 Sports Talk. Make sure you subscribe while you are over there. And let us know anything you want to know from Spencer today. We've got one sports-related, a new texter in from the 785, Chris, in fact, who asks, your opinions on ties in the NFL, in football in general. Yay or nay on ties in football, Spencer?
Nay.
Oh, bad take.
Especially now, because then you're 500. If you could actually go 500 in the new NFL.
That should be a good
8-8-1,
thing.
No, I don't want
the
ties.
records look so much better when it's only 16
I want
games.
college football overtime implemented in the NFL.
Wow, really? Really?
Yeah.
Even the stupidity of the 2-point conversion derby after the third overtime?
Not that part.
Okay.
Okay.
As long as we can acknowledge that sucks.
I am pro tie. I am fine with ties. If you, in the regular season, if you play 60 minutes plus overtime, 70 full minutes of football, and you can't come up with who the better team is, I am fine with calling that a tie.
Then maybe nobody deserves to win.
Nobody deserves to win. That's how I stand on. We once went like 30 minutes just on that, Jake Fulton and I. That's probably as mad as I've ever been. Not really at anyone in particular. I was just screaming. Fulton was pretty new at that time too, and I was just bellowing about it. Yeah, I'm pro tie.
We got another question from a 785 texter who would like to know where you went to school and who your favorite college teams are.
I went to Marshall University in Huntington, West Virginia. It would probably be Marshall is one of my favorite teams. I like Virginia Tech as well.
Okay.
Where do you stand on WVU?
Not a fan.
Okay. I mean, I would
But
expect
I'm from outside of the state. So if you go inside of the state, like everybody is a WVU fan, essentially.
Makes sense.
Like people I went to college with would drive up to Morgantown rather than go across campus to go to the game.
Huh. What is the rivalry like?
There is not really a rivalry.
Okay.
To be completely honest with you, I'll tell you what, soccer, budding rivalry. As Marshall's a good program.
I knew a couple guys who played soccer at West Virginia.
Yeah, but Marshall, the 2020 COVID year national champions, that was in 2021.
Okay.
And their repeat NCAA tournament, they always go back there. But West Virginia, funny enough, so Marshall used to be in the Conference USA,
right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the year they went in, they were the year before they left for Conference USA. West Virginia, as you guys know, Big 12 does not have men's soccer.
Mm-hmm.
So they were in the MAC, Mid-American Conference. Well, they joined Conference USA as an affiliate member for soccer. And then everybody in Conference USA, like that's conference realignment. Everybody's like, we're going to go different places. Marshall joins the Sun Belt. Now WVU is a Sun Belt affiliate for soccer.
Oh.
So budding rivalry there.
Okay.
In the Mountain State Derby, as they call it.
I love it.
But baseball played almost every year. They play it in the capital city for the most games. But now that Marshall finally is about to have opening day on their ballpark that they've waited 100 years, it felt like, for, it might be going to Huntington more than just in the capital city. Volleyball used to play, not as much anymore. Football hasn't played since 2012. And am I missing it? Men's basketball hasn't played either. But you never know because it was not wanted to be played before.
Yeah.
So
what do you?
We have some change there. So potentially a series could come up.
So Marshall's mascot, the Thundering Herd, one of the best mascots in college sports. We were wondering this, Brendan and I. Brendan went to the University of Kansas, so he's a Jayhawk.
Yeah.
I went to DePaul University, so I'm a Tiger. You went to Marshall, so what are you?
A bison.
A bison.
Oh, I mean, that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
A buffalo.
Yeah.
They say one of the herd. So
One of the herd.
I
like it.
I like that.
Nah, that's sick.
Speaking of, we got a couple rolling in now too. One from the text line and from YouTube. Regarding soccer, are you a soccer fan, like outside of your alma mater?
No.
Okay, me neither.
I tried to get it to DC United, could not get it DC United, and not a big soccer, whatever all those leagues are. Can't get into that.
All right.
But I called soccer in college, so I got into it a little bit.
Okay. I'll live on my own island then when it comes to that.
Another yes or no here. DH in baseball, yay or nay? I mean, it's here forever, but are you pro DH or anti?
I'm anti.
He's a National League guy.
That's true.
Because National League guy, I mean, Steven Strasburg's hit a home run.
Yeah?
I watched him hit a home run. I watched Max Scherzer hit a home run.
Hey, I saw Kerry Wood hit a home run in a playoff game at Wrigley Field. I was anti-DH from that point on.
Anti-DH, although I think it obviously, if now you have it in both leagues, it makes it doesn't matter because it depends on what ballpark you're in, obviously. But it kind of brings things up and makes it more even, I guess.
We have another one here asking if you're an MMA guy at all.
No.
Okay.
All right. More importantly than that, pro wrestling. Yes or no?
No.
Ah, damn, I'm alone on that one. That's fine. I'm usually am.
Yeah, we're not a hive mind here. It's not group think when it comes to different sports. Vance in the YouTube, Chicago style or New York style pizza?
New York all the way.
My man.
That might be the East Coaster thing. Like there's not a lot of Chicago.
A common sense thing.
Wrong.
There's not a lot of Chicago style or Detroit style in the East Coast.
Man, I love a good Detroit style pizza though.
Detroit style pizza whips. Highly underrated.
Yeah, extremely underrated. There's a place in Lawrence that's got, oh man, shout out to Big Mill. It is delightful. Let's get to another college sports one here. You don't have to have an answer, at least a strong answer to this one. But, live and work in a place that is 30 miles from one Big 12 school, about, I don't know how many miles, but about 45 minutes from another Big 12 school. They are arch rivals, KU or K-State. If you can also answer no preference, that is okay.
I mean, no preference, but if you watch college basketball, obvious it's going to be KU.
Yeah.
So I can tell you I've watched more KU games ever than I've watched K-State games.
That's fair.
That is probably the experience of most people outside of the state of Kansas.
Yeah.
Because KU is going to be on ESPN straight up a lot more than K-State would be.
Who is your favorite Jayhawk of all time? You can't say Brendan Dworzinski. That's cheating.
I don't have one.
What was your favorite Kansas State Wildcat?
Don't have one.
Wow. I thought maybe I'd loop like there might be some former commander who played for KU. No.
Steven Sims.
Yeah, Steven Sims. That's who I was thinking of.
Sims.
Daniel Wise was there for like 8 minutes.
Yeah. Another
He
former
was there
Jayhawk.
briefly. One of the greatest of all time. Riggins.
Yes, Rigo. He's a Kansas.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Rigo from Centralia.
Yeah.
Right?
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah. I mean, that a little before your
Yeah.
time. Well, let's be fair, a little before any of our time.
My dad's a big John Riggins guy.
There you
He grew
go,
up in that
Kansas.
era.
Yeah,
of-
he's a Jayhawk.
Kansas Jayhawk. Did Hadel never made it out that way, did he? I mean, I know he was mostly known for playing in San Diego. No, he didn't never make it out to Washington. He was a Packer too, briefly. There's a very famous John Hadel trading card from when he was in Green Bay. You would have thought he was like a retiring plumber, not a professional quarterback in the prime of his career. But yeah, no, Riggins, one of the all-time greats there.
So now you have an answer. You didn't have one before. You have one now.
Yeah, now
I
you have a
will
built-in
tell you,
answer.
just for watching the game and seeing how he performed in said game. This is a little far away from here, but it is in the state, Wichita State. Connor Frankamp in that game against Marshall, 27 points. Became a fan.
So, he transferred from Kansas, right?
Yeah, he
I
started his
didn't know
career at
that.
KU.
Did not know that.
I have feelings about Connor Frankamp, and to be completely honest with you, they are not very positive.
But also, I thought it was funny too because he kind of looked like one of the Marshall players, John Elmore, with his hairline.
Elmore was
and his
a heck of a
brother.
player. Yeah.
Yeah, John Elmore was a good player.
He's playing for in the G League.
He's in the G League right now. I remember watching him. What year would that have been? That have been 18?
Yeah, it would have been the March Madness in 2018.
Yeah, because I remember watching the Marshall-Wichita State game while we were in, that must have been in Wichita.
Yeah, we were in the media room in Wichita watching that game. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of K-Staters who played for the Commanders. Coming up empty. Rock Cartwright?
Rock Cartwright.
I don't think I knew
What a
Rock Cartwright went to
name.
K-State.
Yeah.
I actually had no idea. I loved Rock Cartwright. I just liked his name more than anything.
Yeah, all-time cool name.
It was between Rock Cartwright and Rocky McIntosh, two guys with the name Rock.
Yeah, Rock and Rocky on the same team.
Yeah.
I can't pull any other. Byron Pringle.
Yes, Byron Pringle.
Good old Pringle. Didn't get to
K-Stater.
see a lot of him though.
No.
Additionally, is this Cornelius Lucas?
Oh yeah, Cornelius Lucas.
Yep, he was a K-Stater.
Not a great offensive lineman.
6'8", 327. That is actually for 6'8", that's kind of small for a lineman weight-wise in the NFL. Like 327 is obviously massive, but like
Right.
for being 6'8" and a professional offensive lineman, that kind of feels small. Any other questions you want to know about Spencer, let us know here. Oh, all right, here's one for you. Pineapple on pizza, yay or nay?
Nay.
All right, clearly you two have many more food takes in common
Yeah,
here.
I'm just glad he's not going to bring any of that nonsense over into the bullpen. I don't have to sit and have the smell of pineapple on pizza waft into my personal space.
Never.
Here's another sports-related one. Excitement level for the Olympics this year. Are you a big... All right, let me rephrase this here. Whether it's the Olympics, whether it is an international sport somewhere else, do you have like non-Big Four sports that you get really into?
I probably for Olympics specifically, when I was a kid, I used to be a big swimmer. So
Okay.
like
Cool.
that Michael Phelps, Ryan Lochte,
Oh, yeah.
and then the Katie Ledecky, like
Yeah.
all that. I was big into that. And then when hockey's in the Olympics, when it was,
Yeah.
I guess not anymore.
Yeah, well, now that they don't let the NHL players go,
Yeah,
it's
not the NHL. Yeah,
hard to get into it when you don't know anyone.
Anything else outside of the big four major American sports? You say you're a no on soccer, boxing, horse racing, NASCAR, anything like that?
I'm occasional NASCAR watcher.
Okay.
Who's your favorite driver?
Well, he's retired now.
Were you a Dale guy?
Yeah,
Yeah, I
Dale
love Dale
guy.
Jr.
Raise hell, praise Dale.
He's a Commander fan too.
Yeah,
Lifelong Commander fan, if I'm not mistaken. There you go.
he almost signed with Joe Gibbs Racing before he signed with
That's true.
Hendrick Motorsports.
Yeah, I know
Dan Snyder tried to lure him, saying he could own part of the franchise in a burger joint that he had, and he said, "No, I'm good."
we could probably do
That
4.
burger joint filed for bankruptcy 2 years later.
I was gonna say we could probably do 4 full hours just making fun of Dan Snyder business
I
decisions.
did that at my prior stop.
We're going to get to a commercial break. Keep sending your questions in. We'll get to some more of them coming up in the 5 o'clock hour today. Right now, we have to get to a commercial break. When we come back, we'll go around the NFL here on 580 Sports Talk. Around the NFL here on 580 Sports Talk. Brendan, Dan Spencer with you on this Tuesday afternoon. Keep sending in your questions. We got one in here from the 316. We'll get to some more of them in the 5 o'clock hour today to get to know our newest co-host a little bit. We were talking about Jason Kelce a little bit earlier in the broadcast about how he is, according to many reports, he's hanging it up. Not really a surprise. I think you could tell at the end of last night's Buccaneers-Eagles game that he was done. Looks like it might be it for Fletcher Cox as well. Within the last hour and a half or so, Cox took to Instagram, posted a picture of him, Brandon Graham, and Jason Kelsey as captains all walking out for a coin toss with just a couple saluting emojis. We know one of those guys is retiring. We know one of those guys is coming back for one more year as a farewell tour. One of the greatest Eagles of all time, Brandon Graham. That would lead me to believe, if I was a Philly fan, that's it for Fletcher Cox, or it's almost it for Fletcher Cox. If you lost, and they've still got a lot of talent, obviously, that offensive playmaker core with Hurts and with Devontae Smith and with A.J. Brown, they're going to be fine. They've still got some good offensive linemen, I don't know about good defensive players, but they've got some theoretically good defensive players. If you lost a Hall of Fame center and a Hall of Fame interior defensive lineman in one offseason, that would be brutal for that team. Fletcher Cox has been so good for so long. That'd be tough to lose both those guys at the same time. But, I mean, nice if you're another NFC East team.
Yeah.
Before everyone.
Oh, yeah. It'll be definitely be nice.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I'm sure you're sick of seeing these dudes.
Especially with the infusion coming into Washington. I mean, Adam Peters just named GM. You got draft capital.
Who do you want the head coach to be? Like, if you could have, you get your pick. You can give him any check. You get your pick of all the guys out there. Vrabel, Harbaugh agrees he will leave Michigan. He's on the table. You get any of the guys out there. Who do you want as the head coach?
I got to say Ben Johnson.
Even over the guys with head coaching experience.
Yeah, I mean, clearly the Commanders brought in somebody with head coaching experience last time. How did that go?
Soured on that a little bit?
Although I can say that again with non-head coaching experience previous to that was Jay Gruden. And then they brought in, I mean, it seemed like
Gruden getting into it on Twitter with Robert Griffin.
Jay Gruden's a great follow on Twitter. He's a great football mind, but great follow on Twitter. If you don't follow Jay Gruden, follow him.
Yeah, so he tweeted last night that if he ever did anything to a quarterback like the Eagles were doing to Jalen Hurts, he apologizes, and then added, pick up a blitz. Robert Griffin III responded. What did he say specifically?
It was a picture. He tweeted a picture of himself giving one of those looks like, oh.
Yeah, that's his favorite thing to do now with the glasses, right?
Yeah,
the glasses down. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
RG3 is a character on Twitter.
Oh yes, he said, say what? In all caps with 3 question marks, pulling his glasses down. Gruden responded again and said, you weren't prepared, Robert, with a question mark. Interesting punctuation there. RG3 then said, you told me you didn't know how to coach a QB who could throw and run like me, so looks like you weren't prepared, Jay.
Wow.
With another picture of himself with his eyebrow cocked looking into the camera. Wow. That's very fun. I always thought I never thought Jay Gruden was a great coach. I thought he was a fine coach. Washington's had worse.
I mean, I think you
Lots
put
of
him
teams
in
have had worse.
You put him in a different situation, not with an owner that wanted to do everything. Because I mean, the only reason they drafted Haskins, the late Dwayne Haskins, was because he went to high school with Dan Snyder's son.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sorry for you because it's your favorite team, but that's really funny. It's always funny when it's not your team, and then it is, and it's embarrassing. Like being a fan of the Chicago Bulls. And they decide to have a Ring of Honor night, which doesn't include the 2 greatest players in franchise history because they hate each other, or one of the other most recognizable members of the franchise in history. And you don't actually acknowledge everyone all at once, and then you let an old woman be booed by your fans. But it's fine. It's all going well in Chicago. It's fine. Then just letting old women get booed. It's okay. I'm not upset about it. By the way, I meant to tell you about this. I teased it a little bit earlier. The Peacock numbers.
Mm-hmm.
So 23 million people. That's what NBC and the NFL reported were the Peacock streaming numbers. Browns Texans earlier in the day on Saturday, 29 million. So that was a $6 million advantage. Rams Lions, 36 million. That was primetime Sunday night. And not surprisingly, Packers Cowboys, 40 million. Mid-afternoon Sunday, Packers Cowboys. Yeah, that's going to outdraw everyone.
That might be the biggest number of the playoffs, honestly, other than
the Super Bowl. Is that a good number for Peacock then to get 23 million? You knew it was going to be the least watched of the group.
Well, the 23 million, you have to also remember that takes into account the network number. So it's not just the Peacock stream. That doesn't mean 23 million people turned on the stream. That's also your number in Kansas City. And
that's me. Yeah.
The Kansas City area, which we know, like Chiefs games in the playoffs do like a 93 share.
Yeah.
In the market it's ridiculous. Like 99%. The Super Bowl last year was like literally 99% of households.
Yeah.
In Kansas City were watching the Super Bowl. And so that's your Miami number 2, which isn't going to be as big as the Kansas City number probably, but still, that's not just raw streaming numbers. I don't think it's great, to be honest with you. I don't think it's a great number, but is it the question is going to be, all right, how many of those people paid up for Peacock that day or that week in anticipation?
Well, they had a good deal, a $29.99 for a year.
Britt was in here the other day telling us that he had signed up for that last year, that he had signed up. He's like, yeah, $30 for a whole year, I'll do it. Then they never gave him a notice that renewal was coming up, and they just said, hey, we renewed you, and it was full price.
Yeesh.
He was not ready for it.
No, that's the worst.
Because that's the thing these streaming services bank on, right, is that you buy the promo period. You say, yeah, 6 months or a month or a year or whatever. Sure, I'll do it. Why not? It's a good deal.
Then you forget.
And then you forget.
Yeah.
It's like rebates. Companies are fine giving you rebates because you're probably not going to mail in for it. So it's fine. They're not losing any money on it.
One thing they could consider is like the Amazon Thursday Night Football aspect is why don't you put it on TV in the area? Because the amount of backlash, that I saw last week, just on Twitter from the players, they were giving away free subscriptions. So why don't you just do the Thursday Night Football angle and televise it locally on TV?
So it was in the Kansas City only market.
I did not know that.
Yeah, I live technically by 15 miles into the Kansas City what is it? What is the short code for it? Not DMCA. That's something else. But I live in the media market for Kansas City, technically. So we actually could watch it on NBC locally.
I did not know that.
And you could do the same in Miami. But if you came across the county line from Douglas to Shawnee, where we are, you couldn't anymore. It would be nicer if they would at least expand it. Topeka it's not the metro, but everyone here's a Chiefs fan, right? Most of you guys who live in Topeka, you're Chiefs fans. You're part of the Chiefs kingdom. You've got a radio affiliate. There are others all around you. I would like it if they would at least expand it a little bit so that you're within driving distance of going to a Chiefs game. Yeah, MSA. Vance helped me out on Twitter. It's the MSA, not the DMCA. That's what we try to avoid with the YouTube stream when we play Pitbull over the speakers. But yeah, so I wish they would expand that a little bit because I think that would help, certainly. Because, we've said it a number of times. People texted in or emailed in and said, hey, I'm absolutely not going to even go to a bar for this because I just am so opposed to it. My parents wouldn't do it. I get it. It's frustrating. Being drawn in so many different directions for something that has always been free over the air is a pain. I get it.
Yeah, and I totally understand why anyone would be frustrated, but that's going to be the big tell. Was this worth it for Peacock if they maintain those subscribers? If those people are either, oh, wow, I didn't realize all 500 plus episodes of Law & Order SVU were on here for my perusal, or all 8 seasons of Monk, and I'm going to go ahead and catch up on all of this. This will be great, and now I am Peacock's got me for life. Or the people who just forget. And then 3 years down the road, or next year, when the playoffs come around and they do this again, they'll be like, we never stopped paying for Peacock, did we?
We paid $100 this year to watch this NFL game. That's what it comes down to. Don't forget that coming up on Friday, we will be at Prairie Band Sportsbook, brand new and grand opening on Friday. They'll do the ribbon cutting a little bit earlier in the afternoon, and we will be live from 2 to 4 from the sports book. We're going to be inside, so come on by. You want to place a bet, check it out, at least see what is going on at Prairie Band. Come hang out with us. It is awesome. They've got these comfortable chairs. They got TVs all over the place, 10 different betting kiosks you can walk up to and get that taken care of. You want to make a weekend out of it? You absolutely can do that. They've got the second chance drawing coming up on Saturday. A losing ticket for a bet of $20 or more could potentially turn into winning autographed memorabilia, tickets to see Lionel Messi in Kansas City, tickets to K-State basketball, all that available, or a potential prize in the second chance drawing coming up on Saturday. Only locally owned sportsbook in Kansas. We just had our pal Jayhawk on YouTube say yesterday he's been waiting for this for a long time because he thinks that locally owned books give you better lines, better numbers. You got a big old catalog of different things you can bet on at Prairie Band. So we're excited to be there to check that out, to place our first bets there coming up on Friday from 2 until 4 for 580 Sports Talk. That does it for this 3 o'clock hour of the show. Coming up in the 4 o'clock hour of the program, we're going to get to today's What Is Wrong With You. We'll hear from Michael Swain from Fog.net for this week's Jayhawk Weekly, and we'll preview college basketball action tonight. K-State versus Baylor. That's a big one. K-State favored in that game, and KU's on the road against Oklahoma State. That's coming up next hour right here on 580 Sports Talk. on 580 Sports Talk on this Tuesday afternoon. Brendan Dworzinski, Dan Lucero, Spencer Dupuis here with you on this Tuesday, January 16th. Busy hour coming your way. We're going to get to some college hoops in just a matter of moments. Both KU and K-State in action coming up tonight. We'll also get to today's What is Wrong with You, and we will hear from Michael Swain. He'll join us from fog.net for today's Jayhawk Weekly on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline. Big day, Spencer. First time getting to hear What is Wrong with You. We're getting to participate in What is Wrong with You.
Yeah, I'm definitely excited. I guess I didn't get a story, though.
That's all right. We got two in there already. We just do two every day.
Yeah,
We always have that tie-breaking vote, though. So.
All right.
Yeah, it's not a race, but it's just whichever two of us find a story to drop in, we rev it up.
3 would add a little extra chaos, but I think would also possibly deplete our reserves a little bit faster.
Yeah, you're kind of, we don't want to scrape the bottom of the barrel with this. We don't want to overdo it.
So, yeah, we got two new ones.
Two's the sweet spot.
Yeah, 2 new ones today, both from the state of Florida, the unofficial home of What is Wrong with You. That's coming up in just about 20 minutes or so. Still taking your texts. Anything you want to know about Spencer, text it in. We'll ask him coming up in the 5 o'clock hour today. 785-272-9429 is the text line number. And, of course, you can find us on YouTube as well. 580 Sports Talk on YouTube is the name of our channel. Go subscribe if you haven't already. Go check out all of the video content we have going up over there. Vance on YouTube says, well, hey, Spencer hasn't quit yet. That's a good sign. That's true. You are here through 2 hours. That is a plus. And like more than that, like several hours before the show as well. So not having chased you off at this point is a plus. I will take that as a win for myself and for Dan.
It'd be hard to chase me off, especially considering I moved myself across the country.
yeah, that's fair. You're kind of in the I have no other options point. So that's a really good starting spot to be in for sure. Let's get to some college basketball action coming up this evening. Let's start with K-State, shall we? Let's start with K-State.
Sure.
KU's playing the worst team in the league. So we'll start with K-State versus Baylor.
Are they the worst team in the league? They worse than West Virginia?
Well, okay, like record-wise, they're the worst team in the league.
Okay.
I don't know, man. Right now, off the top of your head, name an Oklahoma State Cowboy.
Bryce Thompson.
Name a second. Name one who didn't transfer in from KU. And no, Avery Anderson is not there anymore.
Anderson's gone. The big fella Cissé's gone. Caleb Boone, who I did think was good, is also gone. I bet he's lighting up the West Coast Conference right now.
Caleb Boone?
Yeah, I think is he at Portland or Pacific?
UNLV.
Oh, he went to UNLV. His brother was at Pacific.
Caleb Boone's averaging almost 14 a game, 13.7 points, over 5 boards, shooting 64%. He's 11th in the country in field goal percentage.
I knew it. I said he was a good player.
2 games ago against New Mexico, he put up 29. He had 18 against a top 20 Utah State team. So, yeah, he's balling out.
He would certainly start for Oklahoma State right this second if he walked back through the door.
Yeah, dude, I don't know any of these dudes. I should, but none of these guys are doing anything for me.
This guy here is dead.
Like John Michael Wright. I remember that name.
Yeah.
Like I know he exists. That's not a prank by ESPN on their roster page.
I know of him, but yeah, that's the only other guy. I'm looking at their roster right now. That is the only other guy I can remember playing for them last year.
Like Jamiron Keller. Nah, man. That's a created player when you have like a 2K franchise. You're like 15 years into it.
Javon Smalls would transfer in from East Carolina. That's their leading scorer this year.
6'3" guard. Oh, that's who Bobby Pettiford replaced.
Yeah.
How is old Pettiford doing?
Yeah, he's having an okay year. I don't think it's been a great season for ECU hoops, but
yeah,
he's playing a bunch. He's playing about 30 minutes a night.
9 points a game, 3.7 assists. That's not awful.
That's his role. Yeah.
I haven't checked in. I was watching a Boise State game the other day. Cam Martin does not start for Boise State. I know you're surprised to find that out about the former Kansas Jayhawks national champion. What's old Joe Yesufu doing?
Oh, he's hurt, unfortunately. He's out for the year, I think. He hurt his hip.
Oh, I didn't see he was out for the year.
Yeah.
Bummer.
Hip injury, I think.
Man. My wife's poor Cougs. I've asked Abby before. My wife went to Washington State University and then got her master's at K-State. And that's how we met when she moved to the state. And she loves her Cougs football, loves her alma mater, lived in Pullman for a long time, loves Cougs football, even though they make her sad quite a bit. But she probably has equal love for K-State football. She's a big K-State football fan. I've asked her before, all right, basketball, who do you care more about? It's all K-State. There's not a whole lot of lingering love for the alma mater's basketball program for my wife.
Shout out to Clay Thompson. Shout out to Derek Lowe.
Clay was at WSU while she was growing up. Like she said, she's like, oh yeah, I got free tickets to watch Clay Thompson play living in town. So yeah, nothing but love for Clay Thompson. Tony Bennett, very popular guy in Pullman, Washington still.
I saw them play an NCAA tournament game in Denver. 07?
Yeah.
Oh, wait. Second round game. They played like Pitt or somebody like that.
It is it's been a while since they've been relevant.
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
speaking of programs that haven't been relevant in a long time, Oklahoma State.
Yeah, man. One tournament appearance. And that was with the best player in the country. And they got upset.
Yeah, they won one game.
Didn't they lose to Wayne Tinkle?
At
Oregon State?
I think that is correct. They lost to a 12 seed, I want to say.
It was the battle of orange and black teams, if I remember correctly, from the COVID tournament, 2021.
Yes, they lost by 10. They got 80 points to an Oregon State team that didn't even want to score.
Man, I know we've said this so many times, but how fake that term. And for the teams that got there and the players that got there,
the banner hangs forever.
Great achievement. Yeah, Baylor's banner will hang forever. Scott Drew will be a national champion forever. Oh God. Yeah. Here's something, Spencer, you will learn about me. I hate Scott Drew. I hate him. He's like a great guy. Oh, he turned Baylor around. Oh, he's such I hate him. I can't stand him. I think he's weird. I think he's annoying. I can't stand Scott Drew. That does not apply to his former assistants, though. I like Jerome Tang quite a bit. I think Grant McCaslin's a good coach at Texas Tech. I think that Paul Mills is going to get things turned around at Wichita State.
I think Scott Drew quite obviously can coach. He's just a strange man, and his strangeness can be off-putting. And it very clearly has been.
Overwhelmingly weird. Overwhelmingly weird. Still to this day, one of the finest moments of my journalistic career was asking Scott Drew, why did you go in the KU locker room after they won a game at the NCAA tournament? Why did you do that in 2017? Which led to Svi Mikhailuk famously asking, who is that?
Who is that person?
Oh, man, I miss Svi. All right, let's get to the K-State game, though. Okay, let's talk Scott Drew basketball here.
Scott Drew versus Jerome Tang.
Yeah, you get the emotion. And Tang kind of downplayed that yesterday. Said, hey, look, we got together this week. We hung out. We're still friends. You know, Scott means so much to me,
and this is year 2. Like, I think year 1, it was probably a little more raw. And Jerome Tang acknowledged that it was difficult to have a result in those games.
And different, too, when it's in Manhattan versus in Waco, yes. I think, which is also a pertinent point of this. Baylor's good. We outlined this when we did our preview a few days back, a couple weeks back, that Baylor's got some top-end talent, and it's a different kind of Baylor team.
The last 2 Baylor teams have kind of been different from what we associate with Baylor. Not that they haven't had great players, but typically when we've thought about Baylor, we have thought about teams that were very defensively minded. They weren't going to outscore you. And last year especially, and I think this year is trending in that direction as well, they want to just bomb you from 3-point range and outscore you because they're not going to necessarily beat you on the other end.
Like the team that won the title for Baylor, and I know this is a few years ago now, every one of these dudes played for 9 years. Flo Thamba played forever. LJ Cryer is still in college basketball.
Yeah, he is.
Adam Flagler was around for forever. Godforsaken Mark Vital. Oh, another guy I just couldn't stand. He was a good player, though. Really good player. He played forever. Jared Butler. Jonathan Chamwa-Chachua was a redshirt sophomore that year and is still on the roster in 2024. Maceo Teague, Matthew Mayer, Davion, like all those dudes played. They were good. They were really good players, but they also were just around forever. They were also old players. This team is not that way. Ray J. Dennis is older. He's played a lot, but this is his first year at Baylor. Langston Love has been around now for a couple of years. JTT, who I just mentioned, he's been around. But like Jacoby Walter, that's a young player. Eves Missy, that's a young player.
Both freshmen.
Yeah, that's just such a different way they've built it. So I feel like I've had a hard time getting a grip on this Bears team because I think, no, they don't have any of these dudes. They're not going to compete without any of these established veterans. But it's different when you've got lottery talent and you've got 4 dudes who are averaging double figures. Missy is less than a half a point away from that so far this year. He is freakishly athletic. He's a really talented player. He blocks a ton of shots. I think this is a tough game for K-State, but it makes me wonder what's up because a lot of pro bettors are on K-State in this game. The spread has moved 3 whole points from K-State as a 1.5 dog to a 1.5 favorite today in Manhattan.
Well, I wonder how much some of that is the early season trend in the Big 12, which is that home teams are winning games. That it's been hard everywhere for teams to go on the road and win, but it's been especially hard for Big 12 teams so far, even the best ones, to go on the road and win. And when I look at this matchup, I look at this as a game that's going to kind of depend on 3-point variance. Baylor's the best 3-point shooting team in the country. They shoot 42% from behind the arc. They have the best 3-point percentage in the country. Kansas State has not always shot it great this year. In fact, there have been many games where they have shot it extremely poorly. They shot it real well for a half against Texas Tech. What I think happens in this game is if it turns into a 3-point contest, that does not favor Kansas State. Like if they want to if Kansas State's going to come out and gun it from 3, that's not a game I think you want to get into with Baylor. I think they're going to have to slow the game down a little bit. I think they're going to have to grind it out. If K-State wins this game, I think they're going to have to win ugly. The thing that I think Kansas State does well defensively that's going to give them a chance when they play their smaller lineup and David Gasson is at the 5, they're extremely switchable, and that makes it hard to get really good 3-point looks, really clean 3-point looks. So I think that's going to be, and I say that knowing that like Yves Missy's a big dude, 6'10", 235. He's averaging 10 and 6. They go 6'10" off the bench with I'm not going to get the name right. Not Chamwa Chachua, who's kind of playing sparingly now, just kind of a program guy now, which is wild. Ojianwuna, yeah, Josh Ojianwuna, coming off the bench, same size as Missy. So big dudes. Like you're going to need some Will McNair minutes. You might even need some Jarrell Colbert minutes. But I think Kansas State's best 5 against this team, with as well as they move it around the perimeter and as much as they want to shoot, it's the switchable 5 with Gasson at center. Now, you're not as big, so you have to have some guards work hard on the glass. But this will be a game that tests the toughness a little bit, I think, for K-State. That was the talking point for Jerome Tang out of the Texas Tech game, is we weren't as tough as they were. Well, I think Jerome Tang is very aware how tough you have to be tougher than a Scott Drew team. And if Kansas State is that tonight, then they've got a chance to get a big win and go to 3-1. At least 3-1 would be massive, especially with a home win against a team of Baylor's caliber. This would be a massive, massive win if K-State can pull it off.
I feel like this is a game where K-State has to be fairly efficient on the offense. Like, you ain't winning a game that's 60-59 against this Baylor team. Like K-State lost to Texas Tech over the weekend. It sticks out to me. And you look at the raw shooting numbers, and they weren't bad. I mean, K-State was 10 of 23 from 3, 22 out of 50 overall shooting against Texas Tech in that game. They just didn't take a whole lot. I mean, 50 shots in a college basketball game is not that many overall. But it feels like a kind of game where, Arthur Kaluma and Tyler Perry, your 2 best players and your best offensive threats, even with the way Cam Carter has played, I would still say if you want to give me who are the 2 best, most gifted offensive players you've got, I'm still going with Perry because of the shooting ability and the all-around offensive game of Arthur Kaluma. The 2 of them went 9 of 25 from the floor against Texas Tech. And Tech's going to grind you out, and that's another Scott Drew disciple who's going to play tough, physical basketball. We all saw that unfold in that game over the weekend. You got to get a more efficient game out of them. Like 4 of 11 from Perry from 3, that's not bad, but you've got to be better than that because you're going to have fewer opportunities, fewer good looks against this Baylor team with their size, with their length, with their athleticism, and the fact that they're going to play hard for Scott Drew. It's sort of like talking about the Eagles, and I can't believe this team just quit last night. It's amazing when you see a Baylor team that is not 110% balls to the wall all the time. We've seen that a couple of times in the last 2 years, and it's all, whoa, like, what the hell happened here? Why is Baylor playing like this? So you're going to need to be efficient. Maybe I am too KU pilled by saying this, and you've watched a lot of K-State basketball closely. I feel like this is the kind of game where you've got to get a little bench involvement too. And I know guys are banged up. I know you only have so much depth there. But again, you're facing a team that has so much talent and athleticism all over the floor. This feels like the kind of game where last 4 minutes after that last media timeout, you want a fully charged Arthur Kaluma, Cam Carter, Tyler Perry. Feels like you need someone to be able to give you something off the bench. A 6-man rotation like you saw on Saturday. I don't know that gets it done in this game.
Dorian Finister's minutes are going to be important.
Yeah.
And I've said this, he's the big guard in the rotation. I think they're going to need him for defensive purposes. Jacoby Walters, 6'5". Langston Love, who's been playing great off the bench for Baylor. And you talk about a 6-man. He's best 6-man in the Big 12. I don't think there's any doubt about that. Another big guard at 6'5". So K-State, not very big in the backcourt. They're going to need some big guard minutes. I think Finister's minutes are going to be critical defensively, but he's going to have to give him a little bit of offensive punch tonight as well. I'm not saying, he's got to score 15 points or K-State can't win.
Sure.
But they're going to need a little bit of a lift from him. We'll see if Day-Day Ames goes. He didn't play on Saturday. Maybe RJ Jones can give him a lift shooting-wise. When they recruited him, that was the buzz on him. He'd be an outstanding shooter. Again, I don't think you want to get into a 3-point shooting contest, but I don't think you can win this game with 3 or 4 made threes either. I think K-State is going to have to get and convert on some open 3-point looks. Maybe RJ Jones is a floor stretcher for them in that role. So it is an interesting matchup. I'm surprised personally that K-State is favored. I wouldn't make them the favorite in this game by any means.
I wouldn't either.
But I do think it's winnable because I think it's going to be a good atmosphere in that gym. K-State students didn't have school today. They're going to be amped up. Maybe encouraged by some beverages that they might have been able to have throughout today that they might not have otherwise gotten to have on a school day. So it'll be a revved up crowd, I think, at the Octagon. And I think they've got a chance, but I worry, particularly after they hit so many threes in the first half against Tech and then kind of fell in love with it a little bit.
Yep.
If Kansas State comes out and they're gunning it, I think that's a really bad sign. That's the kind of game I don't think they can win. They got to win a grinder tonight.
I just had this thought transitioning over to talking about KU. We're just less than 3 weeks away from Big Monday, February 5th. It'll be your first experience getting to be like in the area for KU K-State.
Yeah.
It's very toxic. It really, there are, and I want to give a lot of people credit, a lot of people who say, hey, I don't like KU, but self-impresses me as a coach. Or you'll get the people who say he's a dirty cheater, he's got fake hair, and I hate him. On the other side, you've got KU fans who say, hey, I like Jerome Tang. I hope Jerome Tang leaves because it makes K-State that much better, and I have a lot of respect for him and his program. And then you get the people who say, like, you're a bunch of dumb rednecks to K-State fans. It's very toxic.
Yeah.
So I'm excited for you to get to experience
that. It gets pretty nasty. And, it was last year, 2 great games. K-State won by 1 in OT at Bramlage. And then
every player for KU is in foul trouble.
Yeah.
All of them.
KU finished that game with Zach Clements playing center. That's how that went.
I had forgotten about that. Yeah, that
was a thing.
Yeah, that was a thing. Clements won't be playing tonight, obviously. He's redshirting. KU on the road against Oklahoma State.
Clements would play 30 minutes a night for Oklahoma State.
Yes, that is correct. That is absolutely correct. Look, I hate to be reductive in a Big 12 game because it's always hard to win, but I feel like talent-wise, coaching-wise, there are levels here, and Oklahoma State's is far, far, far below where KU is. Stillwater's been a tough place for KU to play, but there's just such a disparity in the quality of player in this game that I feel like if KU is essentially going to run out what it did against Oklahoma, it should be able to win this game. Oklahoma's got better players and better athletes, and I think is better coached than Oklahoma State is. And despite going on the road, this should be the kind of game where, again, there's not going to be that same kind of dominant presence inside like a Musa Cisse, who had given KU problems in the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Now, KU also hadn't had Hunter Dickinson in the last couple of years either. But I think you lean on your important guys in this game. You lean on Dickinson. You lean on McCullough. Get something from someone else in the starting 5. Is it KJ Adams again? He's been great as of late. Is it him? Is it Juwan Harris playing aggressively? I don't predict that in this game, but it's certainly possible. Is it Johnny Furphy, who continues to get better and better every game? Someone just has to contribute. Someone get up around 10, 12 points, 6 boards. That's going to be enough for KU to win this game. The only other thing that I think is important in a game like this, and you can't just blow it off because we know this is the Big 12. We know that every game is difficult, especially on the road. I would love for this to be a game where Elmarko Jackson showed a little bit more confidence. He wasn't bad, I thought, against Oklahoma off the bench, but he still clearly got a ways to go. Hell, he's even got a ways to go to get back to where he was those last couple of games of the calendar year when it felt like he was finally turning the corner and then really unfortunately hit the skids as we opened up Big 12 play. I would like to see him play with a little bit more confidence, make that role his own as the sixth man off the bench, knowing that you've got that relief. You can play the matchup game a little bit when he comes in there, give guys some breathers for a couple minutes at a time. That's what I'm hoping to see. Very much what you said yesterday. Try to get to the point where when the bench guys are in, when Elmarko is your primary ball handler for 5 minutes, you got to play 3 to 5 minutes of Parker Brown just to stay afloat. Nick Timberlake's got to play a little bit.
They don't need to win those minutes. They just can't get dump trucked in those minutes.
Can you be better than like -3 in those minutes? It's okay, he wins. And KU probably wins handily in this game.
I don't think they can do anything with Hunter Dickinson. Their big man options are a freshman and a senior transfer from Jacksonville. So I don't think...
Go Dolphins.
Yeah, so I don't think they've got much for Hunter Dickinson. I know there was a little bit of concern. Dickinson, like physically, I don't think looked great against UCF. He had banged knees with a teammate in practice. He couldn't cope with him on Saturday. Oklahoma couldn't do anything with him. And they had some bigger bodies and some experience to throw at him, and it didn't matter. So I think it's a big game for Dickinson. I'll be interested to see if he continues to defend the paint well, which he did do against the Sooners. And I want to see Johnny Furphy continue to grow in confidence because I thought he played well and did exactly what they needed him to do on Saturday. And if he has, 20, 25 more minutes like that, hopefully he stays out of foul trouble. So it's closer to 25, 30 minutes in that starting role with that kind of energy. I think this is going to be a game where Kansas takes care of business.
Don't forget that coming up on Friday, if you wanted to place some weekend college hoops, some weekend NFL bets, you can do so at the grand opening of Prairie Band Sportsbook up in Mayetta, 20 minutes north of the capital city, up 75 Highway. Come hang out with us. We'll be live with you there 2 to 4 on Friday. Right now, we have to get to a break. Michael Swain will join us later to talk more KU. But up next, we've got What Is Wrong With You here on 580 Sports Talk. It's time for What Is Wrong With You here on 580 Sports Talk, brought to you by Top City Metal Supply. They cut the metal you need to your specifications. That saves you time, money, and material. So never settle when it comes to your metal with Top City Metal Supply, located right here in the capital city on South Topeka Boulevard, halfway between Frito-Lay and Forbes Field. Our winner for the week so far, it is the gentleman who stole the skid loader at a Home Depot and drove all around a couple of parking lots, did some donuts,
and did some real damage,
and rammed a cop car up in this was Bellevue, Nebraska.
No, Lincoln,
Nebraska.
This was Lincoln. Yeah, we had a
Bellevue story last week.
Yeah,
That's
last
right.
Week. No, borrowed some work equipment to go on a bit of a rampage.
Yeah,
in a couple of different parking lots.
All right, so this is a pretty simple way we do this, Spencer. We're going to each read through a story. We'll react to each one. We'll pick a winner at the end. Then we'll pick a weekly winner.
All right.
I will go first for today's stories. So mine's taking us down to Florida. It's a tale as old as time. Guy who was stealing things from a Walmart. It happens constantly. That includes what he put the stolen items in. It included a backpack he took off the shelf and filled with items. So a Florida man was arrested in Bushnell, Florida, after he allegedly stashed NFL cards, deviled eggs, and other items into a backpack he stole from Walmart and then left the store. 41-year-old Kevin Miller was charged with larceny, petty theft, and possession of drug equipment after the incident that unfolded at the Walmart in Bushnell back on January 7th. A loss prevention officer told deputies he saw a man, later identified as Miller, allegedly putting items from his shopping cart into a black backpack that he had taken off a store shelf. Video surveillance confirmed it was Miller. According to the affidavit, the following items were found inside the backpack: 5 boxes of NFL cards, chicken salad, banana pudding, strawberry cheesecake, deviled eggs, pepperoni, and pepper jack cheese. That bag is going to smell so gross, you got to throw it out immediately when you get home.
Yeah, the deviled eggs. Man, those are not going to keep.
No, not
I feel bad for the cop that had to deal with it.
You pull them all out. Gross. The alleged value of all of these stolen goods, $397 and change.
Okay, so either that was the nicest backpack in the store, or he was buying like the NFL cards with like the promised autograph insert.
Oh yeah, guaranteed jersey card in the box. It was one of those full blaster boxes of them. Miller allegedly exited through the garden center without paying.
Butt ton of deviled eggs.
Just an ungodly amount of deviled eggs. Maybe it was like a camping backpack, and you could just fill the whole thing with pepper jack.
I got a whole pocket of deviled eggs. Man, I love deviled eggs.
He was confronted by law
I hadn't
enforcement.
had a deviled egg in my life until like 2 years ago.
Really?
I still have never had one.
You've never had a deviled egg? Brother.
No, my mom makes them.
Join us.
I'm not a deviled egg guy. It just doesn't look good.
I'm not a big egg guy in general.
I'll eat eggs. It's just the
texture. No, I get it.
It's not a good aesthetic.
I get it. Like I totally understand the concept of eating with your eyes, but I'm telling you right now, brother, jump on the deviled egg train with me. You will not regret it. They are delicious.
So he was arrested, and deputies also found a crumpled up piece of aluminum foil with burnt residue in his pants pocket, along with a green straw with a white powdery residue on it. You guessed it, folks. They presumed it was meth. He was transported to the Sumter County Detention Center. He has been released on bond. Needed some deviled eggs and needed some meth. Also is really into hobby, I guess, with the football cards.
The banana pudding is a wild choice. Like,
dude, you just know that smelled rancid.
Oh,
yeah.
Awful. Hope he didn't get any of it on his like autographed cards, his NFL cards.
Oh man, a Chidobe Awuje autograph. All right, Dan, what you got for today?
All right, we're staying in Florida. The headline says a lot here. Underwear-clad Florida man accused of prowling after bonsai theft.
Oh.
Florida man was taken into custody last week after he was spotted in someone's backyard wearing underwear around his neck, according to the Cape Coral Police Department.
Hope it was his own.
Police said they received a call Thursday about a prowler in the 200 block of Everest Parkway just before 10 p.m. The caller explained that someone was seen in their backyard near the dock wearing a gray hoodie, black shorts, and a dark mask on his face. Upon arrival, officers found 35-year-old Troy Stewart in an empty lot along Everest Parkway. He was discovered lying on his stomach between a tall hedge and thick brush near the seawall. Police said Stewart was wearing a gray hoodie, black shorts, and a dark blue pair of underwear around his neck. He told police he was running along the canal for exercise due to its aesthetics and to avoid cars on the road. The underwear was intended to protect his face from the cold. Stewart added that he had been confronted by 2 other men, so he ran away to hide. Police said they spoke with the 2 men. One of them told officers he saw the man walk through his backyard. He shouted and approached him. He was able to remove his hood to see who he was. He said his neighbor then escorted him to their front yard and he ran away. Another neighbor told officers they had reported 2 of their bonsai plants, valued at around $700, as stolen earlier in the month. Investigators added the suspect was seen on surveillance video January 11th, walking toward additional bonsai plants at the same address before fleeing from the area as if he was spooked. Afterwards, officers went to Stewart's home and found several bonsai plants, though they didn't match the exact description of the stolen plants. Stewart claimed to have no knowledge of the tree theft. He faces a loitering charge.
This dude loved bonsai trees.
But we don't know if he stole the bonsais.
That's true.
Maybe he just loves them, but he acquires all of those legally, and he's just weird. Just a weird guy.
That's certainly possible
with the underwear on his face.
All right, we got a bolt. Who you got for today? Spencer, we'll give you the floor. We'll let you have the first vote.
I definitely have deviled egg guy.
Yeah, putting like a whole menu.
Yeah.
Like a bunch of hors d'oeuvres into a backpack with some trading cards.
Yeah.
And just trying to walk out.
And just rank. Like, I just can't get over what that must smell like. I don't think that beats the skid loader. I'm with you for today. I don't think that beats the skid loader, though.
Yeah. No, I would agree with that.
Plowing into the cop car. No way. No
Dude
way.
was on one.
That is our winner today in What Is Wrong With You, brought to you by Top City Metal Supply. Metal cut to order when you need it. That's Top City Metal Supply. Jayhawk Weekly with Michael Swain is next on 580 Sports Talk. Jayhawk Weekly time here on 580 Sports Talk. Brendan Dworzinski, Dan Lucero, and Spencer Dupuis here with you today. Talking all things Kansas Jayhawks with Michael Swain. You can find his coverage of the Jayhawks over at fog.net, which is part of the 24/7 Sports Network. You can also find him on Twitter at mswain247. Michael, what's going on, man?
Not too much. Not too much. We're pulling in Stillwater right now, so get ready for tonight's game, which should be a good one.
Oh, the beautiful drive to the Cowboy capital of the U.S.
Oh, I mean, there are not many drives prettier than this one, and also not a lot that have a lot less going on than this one.
Okay, a couple of things we need to get to here. We'll get to hoops in just a second. One of these, I forgot to ask you about it, I think 2 weeks ago now, but I need to bring it up. The first time you talked to Bill Self after the new year, Bill Self asked the media, did anyone stay up for New Year's? And I believe I couldn't see you because the camera's only on Self, but he looked in the direction of where you always sit, and I could hear your voice in the background, and I'm pretty sure you said no, and then Bill Self made fun of you. Is that true? Can you beat those allegations?
I plead the fifth. No, I'm joking. Yeah, he was pointing at me. I did not stay till midnight on New Year's Eve. I am lame. I'm like the oldest 26-year-old out there. So no, I think I went to bed at like 11. And that was late enough for me.
Self, I think I had mentioned this on the air, and I totally blanked on asking you about it after that happened. Self was like, well, I'm 61 years old, but I sure as hell was up when I was 26. It was very, very funny. As for the actual business, Michael, we do appreciate it. Didn't just bring you on to bully you today, but wanted to ask a little bit about your Sunday afternoon, right around, 1 o'clock, 1:30. Just a little busy for you on Sunday, huh?
Yeah, just a little bit. I think probably one of the bigger moments for Kansas football in a long time, having a head coach be courted by another, Power 2 school, right? It's kind of the era we're transitioning to now, where this is really, 2 power conferences in the Big Ten and the SEC, and then, kind of the other conferences being the Big 12 and ACC. I can't really overstate how big it is, I think, just PR-wise.
I think we lost Michael. We'll get him back on the phone here in just a moment. It's Jayhawk Weekly with Michael Swain, who covers the Kansas Jayhawks for Fog.net and 24/7 Sports. Talking, I alluded to it, Michael was getting to it there. The rumors, the report, it's not a rumor, it's a report that Lance Leipold was offered and declined the head coaching job at the University of Washington. That's kind of unthinkable how big of a deal that is for Kansas. That the Jayhawks head coach was offered the job at a school that is going to be in the Big Ten that just played for a national championship. And he said no and ended up turning it down. Like it's really kind of unthinkable, Michael, that we've got Michael Swain back on the line. Mm-hmm. When you consider all of the context of the situation, that Lance Leipold said, no, I'd rather be with Kansas than Washington football.
Yeah, and I think you can get, right, this is the worst part about these coaching kind of searches and trying to parse through all of this. We're like, if you want to split hairs and say, did Lance Leipold deny an actual offer, you can debate that all day because you're going to hear different things from different people. What is true is that, or what I believe to be true, is that if Lance Leipold had shown strong interest in the Washington job from the get-go, right, and from the moment it started that he had shown that he was willing to take the job, then I think he would have ended up getting the offer and being the guy. But I think it speaks a lot to where KU's at. And look, the athletic director head coach relationship is very important, especially in football, because you need to know that your athletic director is not going to stab you in your back or do things to undermine you with the donors or different things like that. And I think this speaks to the relationship that Travis Goff and Lance Leipold have, that Leipold feels comfortable with the direction of the program, the person leading the athletic department overall, that he's going to stay. And so I think for KU, it's massive that they can have that sort of branding nationally, right? That the Kansas coach turned down the national title runner-up, right? That's pretty big. And so for KU now, right, it's kind of about building. And so, players are back. They're starting workouts today. And I think obviously the coach will start recruiting now for the high school class. And I think Lance Leipold now is going to be full steam ahead looking to 2024.
We're chatting with Michael Swain of Fog.net. This is Jayhawk Weekly here on 580 Sports Talk. Michael joining us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline. So, and I know you had a little bit about this written for VIPs over at Fog.net this weekend, Michael, but for me, the next thing for KU, because this is not going to stop. Like, if Washington is interested and if KU keeps winning, which I assume the Jayhawks will with a coach like this and with players coming into the program like this, more teams are going to be interested, whether it's Michigan someday, whether it's, teams around the Big Ten, the SEC, whatever. teams are going to want a piece of Lance Leipold. They're going to want him in their building. What is it going to take for KU going forward? Because right now, mission accomplished. He's around. He's not going anywhere. Great. But what will it take to make sure that the next time a situation like this comes up, that is once again the case?
Well, I think it goes back to the keyword support, right? KU needs to have the full support of the fan base and, honestly, more importantly, a donor base, because what college football has turned into nowadays is it's an NIL game, right? Who is going to pay their players the most and who is going to take care of their players the most? And look, I'm not breaking any news here. Kansas football is not paying their players more than Alabama, and they're not paying their players more than Oklahoma. And it's finding the financial power to create as strong of a roster as possible. And to do that, you need money. So I think overall, you look at what KU needs to do to keep Leipold around. It's showing that you're going to have that support year in and year out, so that Leipold isn't having to, fight other teams with the hand behind his back because he doesn't have any NIL money and they can't recruit really good players because they don't have the financial power to do so. So I think for him, that for me is the key: is can KU donors and can KU administration continue to show that he's going to have that type of support? And that's what's going to keep him at KU for the long haul, because as long as there's that support, KU will be able to win football games, and that's what Leipold wants.
Michael Swain of Fog.net joins us here for Jayhawk Weekly on 580 Sports Talk, joining us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline, as he does every Tuesday at this time on the program. Michael's work can be viewed at Fog.net. Subscribe today to the 24/7 Sports Network and check it out. You can also find him on Twitter at mswain247. Let's shift gears to the hardwood, Michael. KU obviously had that befuddling loss Wednesday night in Orlando against UCF, but bounced back with a convincing 12-point home win over Oklahoma on Saturday. What to you stood out the most about KU's winning performance over the Sooners?
I really like the way they shot their free throws. No, I'm joking. It's the turnovers. you look at what happened, right? I think the day after we talked, and one of the things I mentioned was, hey, UCF's going to try and turn up the temperature and force turnovers, and they were really able to do that. And I think for KU to have a game where you set a program record, you think about how historic Kansas basketball is, and to say you set a program record, like, that is legit. And to only do it 2 turnovers in a game, I think it shows you that KU has that mental ability to stay locked in, because how many times this season have you watched the game and said, man, it feels like some guys have checked out here over the last few minutes and they're not playing sharp basketball. So that for me is the key. And so it's huge that KU showed they can do it. And now I think tonight's a chance for them to show that either Saturday was a blip on the radar or that that's the start of a new trend going forward.
How did you feel about the fit with Johnny Furphy playing more with the starting 5, getting his first start of the year?
I thought he looked good. Defensively, he really does fit with what KU can do, where you look at what they have now on the wing, and it's like guys that are long, athletic, and can slide. And I thought that KU did a really good job of forcing Oklahoma into some turnovers, right? Furphy, I think, has a steal early on. DeJuan Harris had some steals early on. I like his fit defensively. Offensively, I think generally it's a good fit because he can sit in the corner, he can slash. I think he's cutting with much more purpose right now. So I thought overall it was really good, but, doing it at home in a comfortable environment is a lot different than going on the road to Stillwater and doing it here. So that's what I'm most fascinated in tonight, is watching how Furphy is able to handle all this.
What's your take on why it's so difficult, or has been so difficult? I know it's obviously early in the Big 12 season, but it has been tough sledding for teams out on the road, even highly ranked teams against unranked teams, as was the case for KU against UCF. It's been really rough sledding on the road in the Big 12, more so than usual. Why do you think that is?
I think the conference this year is so strong, and every team has an identity. You look at what TCU does and what UCF do, they really get after you. And you can look at some other teams like an Iowa State. They have an identity. And when you're at home, you have the ability to really enforce that identity. Where KU, right, what do they do really well? Well, I think generally KU does a really good job of playing half-court offense and half-court defense, and then they really do a good job of, I think, running good sets. And it's easier to do that when you're at home. And so I think overall, right, these Big 12 teams are having trouble because when you do go on the road, it's not like you're playing a team that isn't going to sniff the tournament or isn't going to sniff even close to a solid record this year. Like, a lot of the teams in the conference right now have a marquee non-conference win. they've beaten another high major team. So every team's strong. And so I think this all kind of combines to make this conference so competitive where you really can't take a night off.
And Michael, going forward, they'll play West Virginia on Saturday. West Virginia just upset Texas over the weekend. Kind of back to Dan's point here about the away team or the home teams getting big wins. How do you think, after the UCF loss, Kansas is going to have to put, behind them that loss when you have a team that's in the lower portion of the conference?
Totally. I think it comes back to mentality for KU at least, and it goes back to the turnovers, right? You can't take plays off on the road. And I think bad habit maybe is probably the best I can do to describe it. But I feel like at times during non-conference play, you saw KU just take their foot off the gas. And it's the reason why some of those non-conference games end up being close down the stretch, because KU did not have their foot on the pedal the entire game to where they can pull it at the end. And so I think it just, for KU on the road, it comes back to being able to stay locked in for the 40 minutes, because if they do that, they've shown that they can not turn the ball over, or that they can have a really good game. But there have just been these moments throughout games that allow the opposition into it. And so I think it's kind of a growth area for KU starting tonight, and then definitely heading into West Virginia, where I really do think, these two games this week, and then you go to the Cincinnati game, I believe, on Monday. Like, this is a huge 3-game stretch, because after that, then all of a sudden you're looking at going away to play Iowa State. You play Houston at home, Baylor at home. You go on the road again later. Like, it's a tough stretch coming up. So this is a big kind of 3 games for KU to really put their stamp on the Big 12 title race.
Just a couple more questions for Michael Swain, who covers the Kansas Jayhawks for Fog.net and 24/7 Sports. This is Jayhawk Weekly here on 580 Sports Talk. Go check out Fog.net for all of Michael's coverage of KU. And, of course, you can find him on Twitter, too, where his handle is at mswain247. Just sort of a big picture Big 12 question here for you, Michael. But looking at the conference as a whole this year, are you at all surprised that, Houston is a great example because they've now lost twice, that their rude awakening came as quickly as it did?
No, I'm not. And again, it's so funny. I feel like I'm repeating myself, but it goes back to mentality. And Houston is so used to every year you play 3 or 4 games during your conference play that are like the big Super Bowl games where the opposition team's going to be up for it and they're going to be able to match you. Every night you have to have that mentality in the Big 12, because every single night there's a team fighting for an NCAA tournament bid or to make the postseason in some way or another. And I think Houston is struggling with that, because you have to go into games ready to go to battle. And you saw it against Iowa State. They got ran off the floor in the first 10 minutes. They were terrible. And then once they got comfortable, they started to figure out a little bit. Iowa State was able to win in the end. And then on the road at TCU, well, I think there's some mistakes for Houston that in the end lead to a close loss. It comes back to the mentality of being able to get yourself up, be locked in, and do it every 3 or 4 days. That takes a lot. And I think it's whoever wins this conference, I think, is going to have the best mental resiliency, because it is going to be so taxing physically over, the next 5-6 weeks. And so I think for Houston, they've struggled with that. I think even a team like BYU entering the year, right, looking at them and how good they played in non-conference play, conference play is a different beast. And I think you're seeing them struggle as well.
Last thing for you, Michael, and we've got just under a minute here. I know Travis Goff is back home at his alma mater, and he's got a great gig, and fans love him, and everything is set up really well for him. Would you still imagine that there will be some kind of raise or bonus or something for him in the near future, given the pretty incredible job he's done the last couple of years with KU?
Yeah, and this is something I wrote about on the website in our kind of our Monday column. You look at what Goff has done. Obviously, it starts with hiring Lance Leipold, but the women's golf team has been really solid. And look, it's not going to get a lot of attention, and probably in part due to me. I don't cover women's golf that much, but if you look at the hires he's made so far, you look at baseball turning that roster around. Women's golf has been playing at a really high level during the fall, and they'll start the spring season soon. Goff has made really good hires. And then you look at the fundraising aspect and the money that has been raised to renovate Allen Fieldhouse, renovate David Booth Kansas Memorial Stadium, do the locker room in such a short turnaround. These are big projects, and I think it speaks so much to who he is and the job he's done and the relationships that he builds, that there have been so many successes with, how many blips on the radar have there been? I really don't know of any so far. So I think he definitely deserves any sort of raise. And, it was kind of surprising to hear that there's not really been much since he's been hired. So look, I think it's past time for something like that to be done.
Michael, we appreciate the time, man. Go check out his work at fog.net. We'll talk to you next week. Thanks so much.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Talk to you then.
That's Michael Swain from Fog.net. We've got one more hour of 580 Sports Talk coming up after the news. this edition of 580 Sports Talk. Brendan Dworzinski, Dan Lucero, and Spencer Dupuis here with you. Thanks so much for spending some of your afternoon hours with us today. Appreciate you stopping by, whether you're listening on 580 AM, 104.9 FM, online at 580wibw.com, or checking us out on the 580 Sports Talk YouTube stream. We appreciate you spending some of your Tuesday afternoon with us. As soon as we are done, right at the top of the 6 o'clock hour, we will send you to the K-State Sports Network right here on 580 WIBW for Wildcats basketball. K-State in action tonight, taking on the Baylor Bears. Again, pregame at 6, tip-off at 7 o'clock from Bramlage Coliseum right here on your home for the Wildcats, 580 WIBW. We'll get to our 580 Sports Talk headlines this hour. We've got a few more questions from Dan and myself, and also from the listeners and watchers. Want to know a little bit more about our new co-host, Spencer Dupuis. We've got some more questions to get to this hour. Feel free to send them in. Text line number is 785-272-9429. YouTube comment section can be found on our stream, 580 Sports Talk on YouTube. Also want to remind you that coming up on Friday, we will be live from Prairie Band Sportsbook, 12305 150th Road in Mayetta. It's 20-ish minutes north of the capital city, up 75 Highway. Swing on by. We will be there live from 2 until 4 on Friday for a live remote, the day of the grand opening for the Prairie Band Sportsbook, the only locally owned and tribally owned sportsbook in the state of Kansas, and one of the most extensive betting catalogs as well. We've had some folks ask, can I bet on this? Can I bet on this? You're going to have to come up and check it out for yourself, but I'm going to guess the answer is probably yes. If you can find it on TV, I'm going to guess you can bet on it up at Prairie Band. I'm excited to see all sorts of things I can bet on. I'm hoping get some AFL. We're still a couple of months away from Aussie rules returning. Hoping I can get some AFL action, maybe get some CFL action come summertime. Very, very excited for that. The Olympics are coming up. Maybe there's some Olympic action you can get into. So swing on by. It is right next to the Three Fires Steakhouse inside the Prairie Band Casino and Resort. You walk in the front door, the lobby, it is right there. It is absolutely impossible to miss. It is a super cool setup. We're really excited to be there. So come hang out with us again. That is at Prairie Band Casino and the brand new sports book at Prairie Band coming up on Friday from 2 until 4. Whole crew will be up there. So come hang out with us, place a couple of bets, and we'll have a good time at the grand opening of the Prairie Band Sportsbook. Let's dive into today's 580 Sports Talk headlines, and I'll just give you a quick one here. Finalized, we know the schedule for the divisional round of the NFL playoffs with the conclusion of Buccaneers versus Eagles last night and the demolition of the reigning NFC champions. We have your full schedule. It begins 3:30 Saturday, Texans versus Ravens. Number 1 seed in action for the first time this postseason. I think the Ravens win that game. I'm excited, though. I'm excited to see C.J. Stroud, how different he is from week 1 when the Ravens won by 16 over the Texans to now where Stroud is against an improved Ravens defense in the divisional round of the postseason. Saturday night, the only wild card that advanced out of the wild card round, the Green Bay Packers, the first 7 seed ever to win a playoff game. Tom Brady didn't do it. Patrick Mahomes has never done it. Roger Staubach never was a 7 seed.
Right.
Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers, none of them
enough.
ever did it. Jordan Love, though, he's done it. Maybe there's only been, 4 years of a 7 seed, but that is not the point. Technically, I'm correct, and that's the best kind of being correct. Packers 49ers, we know how much the 49ers have owned the Packers, sadly, in the last decade plus at this point. 7 o'clock Saturday night for that one. That is going to draw a ratings number you cannot even imagine. Sunday games, 2 o'clock kickoff. That is the early kick. Buccaneers-Lions. Weird game, I'm going to be honest. It's kind of a weird playoff matchup. And then the late afternoon game on Sunday, your Kansas City Chiefs taking on the Buffalo Bills. 5:30 kick. We will have pregame coverage on the Chiefs radio network beginning at 4 o'clock on Sunday. And we'll take you all the way through postgame of Chiefs versus Bills playoffs round 3. All right, best matchup of the divisional round is what?
I think it's Chiefs-Bills.
Yeah.
I really do. It's best quarterback matchup.
Yeah, that's certainly true.
There's history, recent history there. Like Packers 49ers has some fun history like Brett Favre and Steve Young, but they don't have a lot of like recent.
Jerry Rice fumbled, by the way.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, he did. But yeah, I mean, the Niners have owned that series for a long time.
Yeah, not a lot of recent competitiveness in that one. Buccaneers Lions, I almost feel like they wanted to run that on the 3:30 Saturday kick.
Except the Texans were playing.
That's the Texans spot. Like the Texans are automatically your early Saturday kick if they ever are in the divisional round. So the AFC South, that's what that is. That is the AFC South kickoff time.
Yeah.
But no, I think it's Chiefs Bills. I am in awe of the fact that one conference is giving us this year's MVP, a 2-time MVP, maybe the most physically gifted quarterback in the league and the best rookie quarterback in the league. And the other conference is giving us Jordan Love, Brock Purdy, Baker Mayfield, and Jared Goff.
Jason Kirk of the Shutdown Fullcast posted on Twitter today a picture comparing the NFC quarterbacks to the AFC. And I think it's probably the most kind comparison made yet. And I don't know if you're a Pokemon guy, Spencer.
I am not. I was for a little bit, like Pokemon Go back in the college, but that was it.
Buddy, I've still got that on the phone now. But he compared all of the NFC quarterbacks as like the young ones, the first evolutions, the one you get early in the game, and all the AFC quarterbacks are like fully evolved monster Pokemon. Like, no, that's accurate. Like, Goff is a veteran, but Purdy is still really young. Mayfield is also a veteran at this point, but I just feel like Baker Mayfield is perpetually in his second year in the NFL. Like, wow, he just got drafted. And Jordan Love is in his first year as a starter. Whereas the Chiefs and the Bills and the Ravens and the Texans have like, oh, wow, that's a Death Star of quarterbacks right there.
The incredible playoff round of quarterbacks. And over in the NFC, it's like, wow, one of those guys is 180 minutes away from quarterbacking in the Super Bowl.
That is like Jared Goff, who's done it before, which is also crazy.
We always forget about that, don't we?
Well, because it was such a forgettable game.
It was one of the worst Super Bowls of the modern era, yes.
13-3 with precisely one interesting play. The deep shot to Gronk. That is the only interesting play of that entire game. So I don't remember anything else.
I literally do not remember.
Me neither.
Yeah. I was at a Super Bowl party and there was a big dog. And I remember that about that Super Bowl. And I remember Gronk's big play, and that's it. Like
that's it?
I don't know that there's been a worse Super Bowl in the last 30 years. Like Broncos Falcons was a dud. Ravens Giants was a dud.
Man,
there were some
butt whooping that one was.
Yeah, and there were some beat downs. Like Seahawks Broncos was a beat down.
I forgot the Chiefs won by 2 scores over the 49ers. The run to immortality, Damian Williams.
Yes.
Bucks Chiefs at least was. I mean, it wasn't fun.
It
was a beatdown, but at least it was like interesting.
Yeah, it's like I guess it's hard for me being too close to that situation to evaluate it as whether or not it was.
But at least you can say like the Buccaneers played an awesome game. The Patriots-Rams game was just miserable.
Yeah.
It was so bad. Oh, it was terrible.
Yeah, it had week 4 energy to it the whole time.
Yeah. I mean, you loved that Seahawks-Broncos game.
I did. I watched it many times.
That was a butt whooping. Like Bucks Raiders, that was a blowout. That was a 27-point win for the Bucks. But yeah, I mean, you've got to go a ways back to find a stretch of Super Bowls that were not pleasant. Because for a long time, like 80s into the 90s, there were not many good Super Bowls at all.
No, the 80s, it was like 10 blowouts in a row. The NFC kept beating the AFC team by 1,000 million points every single year.
Yeah,
it was a running gag.
38-16, 46-10, 39-20, 42-10. Niners-Bengals was close. That 2016.
The Montana to John Taylor game.
Yep.
You had 55-10 the next year. Like it was the Broncos were on the wrong side of a lot of these.
Yes, they were. Washington's in here. I'm looking at the list of winners right now. They had that win. Who would that have been in Super Bowl 26? That Doug Williams?
No, 26 was Mark Rippon.
Yeah.
Mark Rippon. Okay.
He was the MVP that year, wasn't he? Wasn't Mark Rippon the MVP?
No. We talked about this just the other day. Who was it? Oh my God. I gotta go find this. I gotta go
Thurman
find
Thomas win it that year?
1991 NFL MVP. It was Thurman Thomas. Yep. We just talked about that like 2 weeks ago, didn't we?
I think we did.
Brett Rippon didn't quite get Mark's talent.
Not quite.
Not
Mark
quite.
Rippon was 4th in MVP voting that year, behind Thurman, Jim Kelly, and Barry Sanders.
Okay, I mean, a pretty good group.
Barry carried 342 times that season. Amazing.
A much different era. But that is your divisional round lineup for the NFL playoffs. Interesting game. The weirdest one is easily Lions-Bucks. Like, that feels like week 8. That does not feel like a playoff game.
Doesn't feel like a playoff game even a little bit.
No. All right, Dan, what you got?
All right, let's keep it in the NFL. The big news this morning reported by Adam Schefter. I think he had it first. He may not have. There were maybe some other sources on this, but it is widely expected that Eagles center Jason Kelce will call it a career after a career that saw him win a championship and earn 6 first-team All-Pro honors. That is certifiably great. That is certifiably all-time great, and will certainly send him to Canton at a date in the very near future. But yes, widely expected, though not confirmed by Kelce himself, that's going to be it for the playing career of Jason Kelce. He can retire and do podcasting.
I was going to say, I'm sure we're not going to get an official statement through a press conference or through an agent or anything. But in case you were unaware, Jason Kelce is part of a very popular sports and football and family podcast with his brother Travis that comes out every Wednesday. I would imagine next Wednesday there are going to be,
Tomorrow.
Maybe tomorrow. Yeah, they're recording today. Maybe tomorrow we get some big news from Jason Kelce.
Those 6 All-Pro appearances, All-Pro nods, all in the last 7 years. 2020, the only year in the last 7 where Kelce was not a first-team All-Pro. So he goes out at the top of his game, truly. 36 years old. That's an eternity to play the game. Obviously, family man, married, young kids, and probably about time. And
especially if you watch have you watched the documentary?
No, I haven't. My parents have watched it, said it was very good, and I'm trying to convince my wife to give it a go.
His wife basically says like he should have retired. He can't walk around. He's on the like he can't play with the kids.
Yeah, that's tough.
Yeah,
that's tough. I would imagine too. It's going to look well. I'm not going to say I'm going to imagine. Like, I bet we see Jason Kelce a year from now, like just over time doing the podcast, he's going to look like me. Like, he's going to drop so much weight because offensive linemen always.
Yeah.
You've seen Joe Thomas. Joe Thomas looks like he could go like be a professional long distance runner at this point. He looks so different. Those guys drop weight like crazy.
Yeah. Remarkable.
Yeah.
So anyway, tremendous career.
Hell of a career.
Hall of Fame career. I don't know how many brother duos there are in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, but Jason, by virtue of retiring first, probably gets there first, but Travis won't be far behind, of course.
Has it ever happened before?
Are the Selmans in the Hall of Fame?
I don't think so.
Leroy is, but I don't know if Dewey is.
Let's see.
Dewey is not.
Okay. Well, no, Tiki's not. Rondé Barber just got in.
Rondé is, yeah. Tiki, fumble merchant.
Clay Matthews Sr. is not in, but his brother Bruce is. Bruce Matthews is so good.
Yeah.
Sterling Sharp's not going to get in because of the neck injury, but God, he was so good.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good call.
Okay, well, here you go. We don't have any yet, but there is one pair that is eligible before Jason Kelce and Travis Kelce will be eligible.
The McCourties?
No, not the McCourties. Right first letter, though. Last name beginning with M.
Manning. Eli Manning.
Peyton's in. Eli will be up soon.
That's going to be such a
2 Super Bowls and 2 Super Bowl MVPs.
I know. They're going to put him in.
Yeah, he's got to go in, right?
It's going to be a very annoying conversation, but it won't last long because they're going to put him in pretty quick.
Eli Manning is like, well, I mean, Kurt Schilling was a good pitcher. Eli Manning is like Kurt Schilling, though. Like, you remember Eli Manning because of like 2 specific seasons. The rest of his career, like, yeah, he was
fine.
Yeah. Now, granted, I don't believe he's ever defrauded the state of Rhode Island, but other than that, I mean, that'd be the comparison.
The more accurate thing is going to be like the Jack Morris conversation.
Yeah.
It's going to be like when Jack Morris got into the Baseball Hall of Fame. Everybody's saying Jack Morris was the best pitcher of the 80s. No, first of all, no, he wasn't. That was Dave Steve. Do your Googles. Second of all, it was, well, he's the best postseason pitcher, and he had these great postseason moments, and eventually that is the thing that got him in, that he pitched the 1991 clinching game of the 91 World Series with the Twins, and that combined with, he won 200 plus games, and they don't make him like him anymore, and all this, and it was a gross conversation. Now he's in, and nobody talks about Jack Morris anymore.
Yeah,
and so they're going to put Eli Manning in, and people are going to forget. Oh yeah, Eli, yeah, Peyton had a brother.
Well, it'll be impossible because he's in everything. He does ads for Quaker Oats now. He was in some other ad too. I think it was for the Olympics. No, it was for Toyota. He was in a Toyota commercial the other night.
Natural pitch man, Eli Manning.
No kidding. Other news from the NFL. Do we want to just piggyback these two real quick? The Saints made a move today.
Yeah, we can go ahead and add to this other NFL tidbit. The Saints fired their offensive coordinator, Pete Carmichael. He'd been there for 18 years. He was a relic of the Sean Payton era.
A relic is right.
Yeah, relic is why he doesn't have a job anymore. Dennis Allen has entered the casting off the coordinators portion of his head coaching career. I'm amazed Dennis Allen kept his job. Truly am.
Give me a notable difference between Dennis Allen and Matt Eberflus. Yeah, that's what we're dealing with.
One
here.
of them can more readily access good gumbo.
yeah, that's about it. Like everybody, Eberflus isn't going anywhere in Chicago, which is already dumb. But everyone thought he should be fired. Anyone who's like, oh no, Dennis Allen is fine. No, wrong. He's a horrible head coach. Horrible head coach.
And we already knew this, and he got a second chance to do it. He's not any better.
Yeah, not well done. Nice to be friends with a guy who is well liked in league circles, even though by all accounts he's kind of a tool in Sean Payton.
All right, Spencer, your first headline. Make it a good one.
Well, it's piggybacking off that. It's a coach sticking with his team after last night. Kind of the rumors were swirling.
Yeah.
But this confirmed an hour ago via Brooke Pryor, ESPN Pittsburgh Steelers writer. She posts, Mike Tomlin told the Steelers players and coaches today that he plans to coach in 2024, a day after he walked out of his news conference when asked about his contract situation. He has a year left on the contract, and although they haven't gotten to a Super Bowl since his second year there when they won, he hasn't gone below 500 ever. So he's a winning head coach, but these last few years have kind of been mediocrity.
They're stuck in the same space where the Seahawks were stuck with Pete Carroll. Like there's a culture that he creates that has proven time and time again to generate winning football teams. And there's winning history, championship history with this coach. But the returns are steadily diminishing. And it's great the Steelers made the playoffs this past year and made the playoffs 2 years ago and 3 years ago, but you never felt like they were going to do anything when they got there. And the Seahawks were in the same place with Pete Carroll, where, yeah, great, they made the playoffs last year when nobody expected them to. The Seahawks tended to overachieve, but they'd also missed the playoffs 2 of the last 3 years. They were falling further behind their competition in the NFC West. So they had to change something. And that's why, in the end, the Seahawks decided to part company with Pete Carroll. The question for the Steelers is, are they at that point where they are so far behind the Ravens or the Bengals or the Browns? And I don't think they're there yet. I don't think they look at their division and say they have lapped us in the way that the Seahawks can look at the 49ers for sure, but also the Rams this year and say, man, they're way ahead of where we're at right now. We got to do something different.
They need a quarterback badly. And the problem is the Steelers are loyal. They are loyal to coaches more than anyone else. We know this. They've had 3 coaches since Vietnam. Like, we know how this franchise operates, and it has been successful. Mike Tomlin's been there for a long time. They got a Super Bowl. It's been a long time since they've been really relevant, though. Big Ben was around forever, and the last few years he probably shouldn't have been because, boy, he did not look like an NFL quarterback at that point. They're on that carousel again right now. If you don't find that guy, I don't know how you keep going and doing what you're doing as currently constructed. And I love Mike Tomlin. I think he's a great coach. If they don't get his contract renewed or get him a new contract after next season, he will be hired in 8 minutes. And that's only because it takes 8 minutes to finally parse through all the phone calls he's going to get. He will be hired in an instant. You're not even going to get an interview, and someone's going to end up bringing him in.
Yeah, I mean, he was rumored to be in the then Redskins search when they got Rivera.
Yeah. So I would be surprised if he doesn't get a new deal at some point because that's just the way the Steelers operate. And he's still in his early 50s, I'm pretty sure.
51 years old.
50. That's insane. He's been around for so long and has won so many games. They just need some new energy. And I don't know what that looks like. And I hope it's not a new coach because I like him a lot. And I think he's a good fit in Pittsburgh. I know your dad disagrees.
Yeah,
your dad,
my
big
dad,
Steelers fan.
He's over it. He's ready for something new.
But I Brooke Pryor, I will say this. I give her props. She was a true dogged reporter. She was not going to let that scoop go because she's the one who asked Tomlin last night about tried to ask him about his contract, and then he walked out. And
I
she
figured
still
it
got
was
the scoop.
her.
Yeah.
I figured it was going to be her.
She still ended up getting it.
Something to look for in the offseason. I mean, maybe they try and go after Baker.
I'm fascinated by what's going to happen with Baker because I think Baker is a good enough quarterback that he can get you to a winning record. He can get you to the playoffs, and clearly he can win you a playoff game. And when he's on, I still think he's a legitimately good quarterback. Not just like, yeah, he's good enough. No, I think he's good. The problem is getting it done consistently, and I think it's been made pretty clear, given his stops everywhere he's been, he needs a pretty specific offense to be that good in the NFL. If Tampa is able to keep Dave Canales as their offensive coordinator, I think Baker stays there. I think he gets a contract. I think they try to lock him up at least semi-long term. If they don't, and he says, hey, I'm going to try something else, I think Pittsburgh would I think there's a lot of teams that would make sense for him. Because if you put him with playmakers around him, he's always been able to make it work. And Deontay Johnson and George Pickens, those are playmakers. I also think Baker Mayfield might fight George Pickens, like knockdown, drag out fight the two of them. But no, that's interesting. I'm fascinated to see where he goes because I think he deserves a starting job and more than just a one-year deal.
Yes.
Next headline here on our 580 Sports Talk headlines for today. I wanted to revisit this one because it came up a couple of weeks ago. It was a Friday. Dan was off getting ready for high school basketball, and I brought this up. We talked about it a lot. We had a ton of reaction from the text line and from the YouTube comments. Talia Tagovailoa, longtime quarterback for the University of Maryland, declared for the draft and then applied for a waiver with the NCAA to get another year of eligibility. Because his claim was, well, when I was at Alabama, the plan was always that I was going to redshirt and then transfer when Tua left. But I only went in and played briefly, kind of as a tribute to my brother Tua, who got hurt. It was an emotional thing. That shouldn't count against my year of eligibility. That should count as a redshirt. I think I deserve a year back. And I told you at the time, this is insane. Like, I have nothing personal against Talia Tagovailoa. I hope he gets drafted, has a very illustrious NFL career, or UFL, or CFL, or wherever he ends up going. But you cannot do this. Of all the things the NCAA has done wrong, waivers they haven't allowed that they should have, etc., this was one you absolutely could not allow.
Yeah.
You can't say, oh, well, you made an emotional decision, but since your name is Tagovailoa, we'll let it go. No, that's an impossibly bad precedent you could have set if you allowed Talia Tagovailoa to get another year. So I say I'm glad, not because I wish ill upon him specifically, but because that would have been ludicrous. You have to have some rules.
I wouldn't have put it past the NCAA, though.
Well, that's the thing. That's the thing that stuck with me. Like, this should not even be on the table. Yeah. You should not even be able to consider doing this. And I'm glad they stuck to their guns. This is one of the few times the NCAA did the sensible thing. So I did want to touch on that because I know we talked a lot about that a couple weeks ago. One other side note here from college sports today. Ayoka Lee, pretty good, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty decent. The United States Basketball Writers Association, they agree. Ayoka Lee from Kansas State, your National Women's Basketball Player of the Week. Your number 7 Wildcats will be in action a little bit later on this week. Action you can hear right here on 580 WIBW. National Player of the Week. She's a Kansas State Wildcat. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely awesome stuff. She's been terrific. That's a great Wildcat women's team playing right now. You should get out to Bramlage and see them if you get a chance. College football coaching carousel news made official earlier today. Arizona has their new head coach to replace Jed Fish. It is Brent Brennan, who was a candidate for the job when they hired Fish 3 years ago. Brennan comes from San Jose State, and on the surface, his 34-48 record as the head coach of the Spartans does not look impressive. But do you know anything about San Jose State football? That is maybe one of the 5 hardest jobs in Division 1A college football.
An area that does not care about college football very much, does not have passionate fan bases, very little money, hard to recruit to a school like that. And Brent Brennan won. A couple of years ago, they were one of the best stories in college football. That must have been the COVID year. He's a hell of a coach. And I think this is probably the best Arizona could have done. I think it's a great hire.
San Jose State went 7-6 this past season and only missed out on playing for a conference championship out of a technicality. They went to 3 bowls in 4 years. Previously, they hadn't been to a bowl since 2015. They were 7-1 in the COVID year, finished the year ranked 22nd in the college football playoff poll and 24th in the AP poll. That is not an easy thing to do at San Jose State. So Brent Brennan going to be the new head coach at Arizona. It sounds like early indications are that Arizona's 2-star offensive players will be staying in Tucson. Quarterback Noah Fafita, wide receiver Tataroa McMillan, both being rumored at this point that they're going to stay in town and not hit the transfer portal, which would be a big deal for a team that's bringing back some big-time talent. They have lost some guys already to the transfer portal. Jonah Coleman, one of their running backs. Ephesians Prysock, their delightfully named star defensive back, hit the portal earlier today as well. But if they can keep Fafita particularly and McMillan, Arizona should be really, really tough to stop next season. Also, there will be, in addition to San Jose State, 2 other Group of 5 programs looking for new head coaches. South Alabama and Buffalo are losing their head coaches, not to other head coaching jobs, to the Alabama coaching staff. The rumor is that Kalen DeBoer, the new head coach at Alabama, is going to hire South Alabama head coach Kane Womack to be his defensive coordinator. And I know it looks like Womack. It's Womack. I looked this up. So Kane Womack, who has been the head coach of South Alabama, gotten them to a bowl game. He's going to be the defensive coordinator at Alabama. And Maurice Linguist, who had been on the staff at Michigan as a defensive coordinator before being hired as Buffalo to be their head coach over the last 3 seasons, is going to join as a defensive analyst.
It actually is it is an on-field role.
Is it an on-field role?
According to Chris Lowe from ESPN, likely defensive backs coach.
Okay, I had seen initially analyst, so good thing that at least it's an on-field role. He's not leaving a head coaching gig for an analyst role.
But head coach to position coach at the same, like North Dakota State's head coach becoming a position coach at USC, you're moving levels at least. I kind of get that.
You're probably still making more money, though.
Well, especially at USC, yeah. But to go from head coach at the FBS level to position coach, even at Alabama, that's crazy.
I think it hurts the most as South Alabama's head coach for the people that go to that college. Like I went to high school with a guy that went to South Alabama, and he said it hurts to see him go to Tuscaloosa.
He is an awesome coach. Awesome coach. That's a big deal. That's like, I got to be honest, if you're a G5 team, and you know this being a Marshall grad and fan, like it's got to be a little bit scary to know, dang, our guys aren't even leaving for Power 5 head coaching jobs.
Yeah, that'd be one thing. But for Maurice Linguist, and Buffalo wasn't very good this last year. And that might just be Linguist maybe feels the wolves at the door and says, I'm going to get out while the getting's good, while my reputation is what it is right now, and take a assistant job elsewhere. But it shows you, I think, the growing disparity between the haves and the have-nots in college football, that the have-nots are losing their head coaches to
assistant
gigs, not even coordinator gigs, assistant gigs.
Yeah, it's crazy. That does it for today's 580 Sports Talk headlines. When we come back on the other side of this timeout, we've got more questions for Spencer. Get to know your new 580 Sports Talk co-host. Send them in 785-272-9429 to the text line, or drop them in on the YouTube comment feed as well. We'll get to some of those after this on 580 Sports Talk. All day here on 580 Sports Talk, we've been taking your questions, things you want to know about the newest co-host of 580 Sports Talk, Spencer Dupuis. We've had some of our own as well. Anything you want to know, send it in on the text line, 785-272-9429, or drop it in the YouTube comment section. 580 Sports Talk on YouTube is where you can find us. Here's one a little bit out of left field from the 402. Spencer, what's the best zoo you've ever been to?
The National Zoo in Washington, D.C.
Got the pandas.
Not anymore. They just shipped them off a couple months ago.
Where are they?
They're back to Japan.
Oh.
No more pandas.
Wow.
But yes, that was always the best thing. Like when I was growing up, panda watch, panda watch, panda watch. Like there's cameras when they were having baby pandas. Yeah. By far the best zoo. But that's probably the only. I've been to the Baltimore Aquarium. That doesn't count.
I love a good aquarium. We have a zoo in town.
I know.
Yeah, you have to go.
Yeah. I was told I need to go.
Yeah.
It's
a good zoo.
It's cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Right in Gage Park. We've had a couple of other ones leak in. All right. I wanted to get to this one. Spencer already responded in the YouTube comments, but I thought it was a fun question. What did you know about Topeka before moving here this past week?
Honestly, nothing.
Did you know it was the
we were
capital?
close. Yeah, I knew it was the capital of Kansas, and it was close to Kansas City. But when I was a kid, to be honest with you, I did think the Chiefs were Kansas Chiefs.
You're not the only one.
You are not the only one.
Yeah.
It wasn't until about probably 10 years ago when I was in high school.
Travis Kelce thought that when he was drafted. He tells the story all the time. He saw a phone with the Missouri area code, and he thought he was going to the Rams. Thought he was going to St. Louis. So really threw him off. So you're not the only one. Don't feel too bad about that.
All right, we've got, again, send in any other questions you've got to the text line or to the YouTube comment section.
Here's one from the 316. Are you a collector of sports cards or memorabilia?
I collect some memorabilia, not a lot. I used to be a big card collector.
Okay.
When I was a kid, I had to have every card. I had to have the team sets for the then Redskins. I'd get them autographed. I'd keep one closed. I get two. I'd have one that I could look at, and then I have one that would not be opened. But a little memorabilia when I can.
All right.
I have it's not autographed, obviously, but it's the year that Sean Taylor was elected to the Pro Bowl after he died.
Mm-hmm.
I have that jersey framed.
Oh,
that's pretty cool.
That's cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. Off the board here, non-sports, favorite type of cuisine, favorite type of food.
It's a hard one because you can't beat a good burger, but also I love me some pizza.
Okay.
Yeah.
You get a lot of good burgers in Kansas. I don't know if you know this about Kansas. Farming, big deal here.
Yeah.
Ranching.
Ranching, big deal here. Kansas beef, big deal here.
Yeah.
So you will not.
Go ask our K-State friends about beef in Kansas.
You will not be hurting for hamburger options. They will be plentiful and they will be delicious. How about this? We know you like to talk sports. Obviously, we know which ones you like. What's your playing career look like? Talk us through your sports, your athletic resume.
We found out a little bit earlier you were a swimmer at one point.
Yes, was a swimmer. And the joke that we made at my last job was that I beat Michael Phelps in the Towson Invitational in 2005.
Really?
That was the joke. Yeah. Swimmer until high school.
Okay.
Didn't swim in high school. Played football a little bit. Played tackle football for 1 or 2 years, but was a big flag football guy.
Okay.
Because I didn't like getting hit, to be honest.
I respect it. That's
so
why
I played center and ran a little routes.
Okay.
And then I played basketball from 6th through 9th grade. But my career ended with an injury. An embarrassing injury that we won't get into on the show yet. Maybe it'll come on down the line.
Okay.
But I did indeed break my wrist in practice. Thought everything was fine and dandy. Had a cast on for 4 weeks. Came back to play with a brace on. Then was getting had to get the physical over the summer to start workouts. And then they're like, hey, you need to get an MRI because your wrist isn't in full.
It
isn't fully functional. It doesn't move the way it should move.
That's not what you want to hear.
No. Don't love
so I got it. I had a cyst, and then in the middle of my hand or wrist, and then I had the bone wasn't fully put back together on the edge. So if we look right here, there's there's some scars from when I was like 14.
Wow. Dang.
That ended my career. And then I said,
yeah, understandably.
Then that's how we got here.
Yeah,
where we are right now. Because then I was like, oh, well, if I can't play, I want to kind of do something in sports. And then I started writing in high school.
We're all failed athletes.
Yeah.
That's
and
true.
then I got to Marshall and then found radio and been here ever since.
We've got another food-related one here. This is less so a question, more so just a comment from the 785. Spencer, you better get your barbecue chops on. That's what we do here. Yes. Are you a barbecue fan?
Yes, I like barbecue. I will tell you, we had the thought of stopping in Kansas City for barbecue on Thursday, but instead, because we were really hungry, we did stop at one of those Whataburgers that Pat Mahomes invested in.
If you're going to get fast food, Whataburger's the move.
I don't know. I wasn't too impressed.
Really?
Okay.
That's a staple often when we make trips down to Dallas for things. Was the Whataburger in Edmond, Oklahoma. Yes. We have been there many times.
They've got a booth with our name on it, and it's a whole thing. Yeah.
So my best friend, he swears by Whataburger when he travels. He's in the Air Force, so he's traveled a lot around to the southeast areas. And he was like, I told him that I was getting it, and he goes, dude, you're going to love it. I love Whataburger. And I just wasn't too impressed.
Wow.
The fries were really good. But the burger, I just wasn't really impressed.
Sometimes people big stuff up, and it doesn't meet the expectations. I understand that.
But I also am putting it on a pedestal because I want to try In-N-Out at one point.
That's fair.
That I'm a West Coast guy. My mom's from California, so I had Whataburger a lot as a kid when I visit California. I stand by In-N-Out being better than Whataburger. I will make that argument.
One last one for me. You mentioned this to us off the air this afternoon. You said you had a bombshell or some sort of big thing to tell us, but wouldn't describe it to us off the air. So I'm curious what you had prepared for us today.
It wasn't too big, but we talked about my like of music earlier. That I like Luke Combs. I went to his concert. Luke Combs has kind of like a signature look, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
I was stopped by Y108 in Pittsburgh, their country music station.
Yeah.
Because I indeed did look like Luke Combs.
I kind of had the same thought.
If we can get it centered there.
Wow, that's incredible. Yeah. So we got a picture here with the beard, the hat, the beer, and everything. Wow.
And the Columbia shirt.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Yeah. So
did you act like him? Were you willing to be like, oh, yeah,
needless to say, I got a few beverages.
Hey, all right.
On the house.
Listen, I've never got any.
And I took pictures with the Pittsburgh police, even though they knew I wasn't Luke Combs. But yes.
Man, I wonder if Luke Combs is aware he's entered the level of stardom where people can get free beer and pictures with the cops just for looking like him.
That's pretty cool.
That was an adventure.
I would imagine.
Yeah, you and I are not there yet, Brendan.
No.
I don't think anybody looks like us. I mean, if anybody looks like us gets approached by the police, run.
Yeah, no, you don't want that. That's no good here. All right, keep sending them in. We'll get to a few more here if we can before the end of the show today. 785-272-9429, or drop us a line in the YouTube feed as well. We owe you a commercial break. When we come back, we'll get some final thoughts, some final initial thoughts on Chiefs Bills. That's coming up here on 580 Sports Talk.
You know, Brendan, I had a thought during the timeout.
Hit me with it.
We've been grilling Spencer all day today,
We have.
and he hasn't asked us anything.
That's true.
I did off the air, but like that work stuff.
Yeah.
Yes.
Procedural questions.
Figuring out how our insurance works,
Yes.
I don't think is
How
quite
should
what
I-
Dan's going for
How
here.
should I fill out direct deposit? No, man. We're turning the tables a little bit on ourselves. If you have random questions for us that you would like to ask, this is your turn.
All right. Favorite place to eat here in Topeka?
All right. By the way, any restaurant or eating establishment that is mentioned, you are welcome to reach out to Dan or myself about
Yes.
advertising opportunities.
Please text the show 785-272.
Yeah, you can always bring food in.
Yeah.
We like some dinner sometimes.
We'll take meals. We'll take ad dollars for sure. I'm going to give you two. Both got to go a little bit north for them, north of the river. I'm going to give you in Noto. In fact, they're both in Noto, technically. The Wheelbarrow. Unbelievable. That you turned me on to that originally.
Grilled cheese, buddy. Gourmet grilled cheese. Yeah.
I'm in.
Some of the best sandwiches I've ever had. Amazing pretzels. You put a soft pretzel on a menu anywhere, I'm putting one of those down. Have a little bit unorthodox hours, but the food's unbelievable. And I told you we're all going out to lunch here soon. The Pad up on Topeka Boulevard. Oh my, the best. The cheese balls and a burger. Oh my God, it's magical.
Some very good barbecue in town. I like the good folks at Hog Wild. Make some good barbecue.
Yep.
Herman's Meat and Smokehouse does some great barbecue as well. If you're wanting to try some Kansas City style barbecue, that's going to be your best bet around here. And neither place is too far from work, so you could do it for lunch if you wanted to sometime. Big on those two. Certainly two of my favorites. Tortilla Jacks also. You can't beat Tortilla Jacks or Taco Villa for just a good straightforward tacos, burritos. Really, really enjoyable experience.
We can't do this in the 5 o'clock hour.
No, that was not cool of you to do this in the 5 o'clock hour.
So hungry. We were talking food earlier today, and I hadn't eaten all this. Damn it, I'm so hungry.
What else? Let us have it.
All right.
I'm trying to think of good questions here.
No bad questions on Random Question Tuesday.
Yep.
What are we doing in our spare time?
So I have less than I used to because I'm married. And we're on the air till 6 o'clock. So my wife and I, we like watch TV. I watch a lot of sports, obviously, but when there are not games on, my wife and I like to, watch shows on Netflix or, some of the network shows. She really likes the network dramas like Law and Order SVU, or, we'll watch that together. We'll watch a Chicago PD together.
I like that show.
Yeah, Chicago PD. Awesome.
Big Chicago Fire fan.
Oh, nice. She kind of gave up on Fire last year. She wasn't feeling.
I almost did, and then I got back into it.
Okay, well, maybe I'll tell her she's got to pick it back up. But
not Chicago Med though.
Not Chicago.
Not a Chicago Med fan. I can't pick it up.
I can't do the medical shows. She watches those without me. When she gets home from school, she watches that. No, watch a lot of television. We've been binging Suits. We're into season 4 on Suits. Just started season 4. And then now and again, I'll dust off the sticks, play a little PS5, sports games. I'm not like playing Fortnite or anything like that with the kids on online or anything like that. Nah, I play the show. I play PGA. I play 2K. That's it.
Yeah, same. Being married, I generally my free time is spent being with my wife. That's kind of how it goes. We watch a lot of TV. I dominate the TV at home a lot because I will watch. I'll watch any game that's on. And if there's nothing on, I'll just put on a random college basketball game or whatever. My wife watches a lot of reality TV, so I try to get into that more with her. Have you ever seen Traders or The Traders on Peacock?
I have heard about it.
It's good. It's very entertaining. A lot of celeb reality kind of stars on there, many of whom I don't know, but it's very entertaining. So we watch a lot of that, a lot of Bravo shows, very into game shows as well. So we'll watch a lot of Jeopardy, a lot of Pressure Luck. So yeah, a lot of TV watching. I like to work out. I used to run every single day. I don't anymore. A, because it's cold. B, because COVID happened. And I was like, well, I mean, what's the point? What's the point of doing anything at this point? So I stopped doing that every day. But yeah, I mean, I'm kind of a homebody. I'm not really all that interesting. I like trivia. I like to read Wikipedia. That's probably the number one, if we're being honest. My wife goes to bed. I'm up for another 3.5 hours, and I just read Wikipedia all night.
Yeah, I also like to read. I play I haven't played as much golf as I'd like, but I do play quite a bit of golf.
Yeah.
All right. So you said you're from outside Chicago?
Yep, Chicago suburbs.
All right. So, and then I'll get to yours after this. How did we get to the Packers?
When I was a kid, my whole family's Bears fans. I grew up among Bears fans, but it was pretty simple. The Bears were coached by Dick Duran, and they sucked, and the Packers had Brett Favre. And they were on TV all the time, and now he probably should be in jail. But at the time, like...
Allegedly should be in jail.
Allegedly.
Allegedly.
I wasn't into, like, comic books, so Brett Favre was a superhero. Like, what he did was just outrageous. So, yeah, that's pretty simple for me, honestly.
All right, then for Dan, how the Seahawks, like, that just seems so random to me.
It is pretty random. It's always good to reset this. I
Yes.
feel like we need to do this.
Yeah,
like
it is
once
important.
A month, like scroll it on the bottom of the YouTube. So my great uncle was an NFL assistant coach. My great uncle, his name was Tom Lavatt. He played college football at Utah, and then he embarked on a lengthy coaching career. He was at one time the head coach at the University of Utah, in fact, for 3 seasons. And then he was an assistant at Stanford under Bill Walsh for a little while. He was an assistant briefly at Wyoming in the Canadian Football League, and then through the 80s and into the 90s in the NFL. And in 1991, he was hired by a gentleman named Mike Holmgren to be the offensive line coach for the Green Bay Packers. So in my young childhood, he was with the Packers, so I just thought the Packers were the best thing ever. I was a big Packers fan through the 90s. I had the same feelings about Brett Favre that Brendan did. Then, you may recall, after the 1998 season, Mike Holmgren took the head coach and general manager position with the Seattle Seahawks. My uncle went with him. My great uncle was the offensive line coach and assistant head coach until he retired from coaching football in 2003. But that is how my allegiances developed. I rooted for Green Bay because that's where I was cool to see a family member on television. And then when he went to Seattle, I watched more Seattle games because, again, it was cool to see a family member and on TV and have that connection to an NFL team. And then when he retired, they had Sean Alexander and Matt Hasselbeck, and I was kind of attached. And I have been ever since.
There you go.
We got to get to one final timeout. Final words up next here on 580 Sports Talk. Time for a real quick final word before we get out of here. Dan, you're up first.
I think KU wins and covers tonight at Oklahoma State. I just don't think the Cowboys are good enough to hang with KU if they play well. And what the heck? I'll go for an upset. I think K-State knocks off Baylor tonight. I think they turn that into the kind of game they want to play. They bounce back from Saturday. Baylor's due a loss on the road and the league's hard. I think it's going to be K-State tonight.
Spencer, you're up.
It was a great first day. Looking forward to getting really going here. And it's going to be a fun week as It'll be Friday. We'll be out at the new sports book.
Yep. Looking forward to that. So happy you're here, Spencer. For me, for my final word, I truly just need one word today. You know what it is. Hawks! KU by 1 billion tonight over Oklahoma State. We're back tomorrow from 2 until 6. Plenty to get to, including Tim Fitzgerald joining us to talk all things K-State. For Dan Lucero, for Spencer Dupuis, I'm Brendan Dworzinski. We'll join you guys tomorrow at 2 o'clock on 580 Sports Talk.